What's up, fellow grounded travelers? How's
Hello.
everybody doing tonight? I love that the chat has been pretty active over the past couple minutes already. You guys are killing it. Thank you so much. I just want to say a quick hi to everyone that we can see so far. So, hey, Mark, and probably Jocelyn too, Walter's World. Awesome to have you guys on. Thank you so much for joining. And you guys have some really great tips already for the topic at hand tonight that we're going to focus on. So, looking forward to that. Hey, Stephen Briggs, great to have you on. Malcolm Hogan, awesome to have you back. So Malcolm's in New Zealand, everybody. So yes, good morning to you.
Yes.
Thanks for joining.
It's a much more reasonable time this time than the last time you joined us. So
yes.
We're happy for that for you.
And also I'm really actually just want to say hi to everybody else first. So Mark Finley, hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining.
Mark and Terry.
While making dinner, so cheers to you. We just ate dinner. And then Michael Mann. Oh, great to have you on too. This is awesome.
Michael.
Hey, Katie Smith. Awesome to have you as well. So we have quite a crew today, which is really exciting. What we first and foremost should say is that we have a new external microphone. It's actually not new. I've had this microphone for a while, but I wasn't able to plug it into my MacBook. The ports just weren't talking to each other, so I ordered a connector thing on Amazon several weeks ago, and it finally came. So hopefully you guys can hear us at all and well. So let us know if that's never the case. Hey, Michelle, great to have you on too. And Eric Brown, welcome everybody. This is really, I love that we're all hanging out right now. This is great.
I guess we should cheers.
So, cheers to all of you guys. And so I'm Eliz. This is Derek, just so everybody's aware.
Or as Eric calls us, D&E.
Yes, that's it. And so I run the Means to Travel channel here on YouTube. We also have pretty big, photography thing going on Instagram too, Derek especially. So really great to have everybody who's new and all of our returning friends too. I think one thing that we always like to have with our live streams every week is just an open dialogue talking about travel and just making everybody a little bit happier during this time of chaotic quarantine. So really great to have everybody join tonight. We are drinking.
We are drinking.
We are drinking, period. End of comment.
So we made our way over to Benny's Beverage Depot last week.
That's a Chicago thing, so a lot
it
of
is
people
I was about
won't
to
know.
get into that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It's a Chicago, family-owned Chicago-based wine and liquor distributor. That's pretty big here. They have multiple locations. Great place to go pick up wine. Phenomenal selection. And they have a selection of wines from Chile. Is this Chile?
They have a selection of wines from all over the world, and they're organized, all over the world. So it's kind of like a map of the world as you walk through the aisles.
Yeah. So like last night
we headed into the South America section.
Yes. So last night we drank a white wine from Uruguay. Tonight it's a wine from Chile. It's a Carmenere, which is a type of wine that it's a grape that they thought was extinct at one point in time because it kind of fell out of favor in Europe, and it was rediscovered in I think Pinot Noir or Merlot fields in Chile and sometime in the last year. Not the last year, in the last century. In the last century.
Not last year.
It just got found. No, sometime in the last century, and they kind of brought it back in Chile, and now that's kind of one of the big wines of Chile is the Carmenere. It's kind of what they're known for, kind of like how Malbecs are like the wine of Argentina and Mendoza. Carmenere is kind of the wine of Chile.
And so when we were in Chile a couple years ago,
and we ate at Chili's.
No. When we were at our hotel, one of the he's here all night, folks.
I'm here all night, guys. You can leave now if that's what you were wanting.
Please don't. Let me finish my story.
Get out of here.
When we were at our hotel, one of the hotel staff stopped us and asked us what wine we had tried so far in Chile, and because he had heard that we had just been to Argentina right before, and he's like, Carmenere from Chile is so much better than Malbec from Argentina, and he just said it, straight to our face, no shame. He just
Hometown pride.
It's better. Hometown pride. It was
Hometown
like,
pride.
it was like a sports team fanatic sort of thing. It was really funny.
People like their wine.
And I guess it's competitive, so.
Yeah.
Also want to say hi to everybody new too. Hey, Karen Mack, Alex Capicco, great to have you back. Alan A, good evening. Malcolm, yes, we have tried New Zealand wines, specifically the Sauvignon Blancs, but we had two friends of ours just get back from their honeymoon in New Zealand, and they actually used my mailing address because I have a USPS or UPS. Thank you. UPS box. So they shipped it to my UPS box, and they were sharing a little bit of their wine with us, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian and Stephanie, who I know is still working, but really great to have you on. So we had, I guess, told most of you guys that we are going to focus a little bit on talking about best practices for traveling with other people, which is a pretty broad topic, which we, will admit. But specifically, like Derek and I travel together all the time as a couple, and there's a lot of ease with traveling just with two people. And I've done that with friends before too, even last fall. I went to France with a close friend of mine. And then with Brian and Stephanie Berkhammer, I went to Belgium with last summer. But we've also traveled with family, and I've traveled in big groups with like a mission trip. And we both have traveled with coworkers in the past. So there's a lot of nuances to the different types of travel that you might take, and so we thought we would just dive in and have an open conversation. You guys definitely chime in the chat with everything you've learned in the past about what to do and what not to do when traveling with others.
Yeah, and Brian is.
Oh yes, and Brian, thank you. We have traveled, the four of us, in Italy as well, specifically Lake Como, and that is where I bought this scarf.
Fun.
So funny that you say that.
I did not even know that. Eric Brown, though, real quick, is saying that he's a wine rookie, but it's growing on him. He's more of a beer and vodka Red Bull kind of guy. Nice. Which one are you drinking tonight?
Wait, separate. Vodka, beer? Red Bull, and then beer. Okay, sorry, that was a dumb question. Apologies.
He likes beer and vodka flavored Red Bull.
There you go.
Or Red Bull flavored vodka. We don't know what.
I used to only drink those like at the end of a night. When in my 20s.
I used to drink that at the beginning of the night
boost.
to get the boost.
But I don't drink beer. Derek does, so we're a house divided on that one. But I actually don't drink anything carbonated, really. So.
Okay. Well, Eric is drinking vodka Red Bull tonight, so it's going to be a
Killer.
party.
Yeah. You're going to be wired. You're going to just start typing and typing and typing. It's going to be great.
Okay, so I guess to get us kicked off on this whole traveling with other people, and that's not to say that solo travel isn't a phenomenal thing and a very worthwhile endeavor. I think that,
and I think it's a whole topic in itself. How to do it.
It is
how to do it well.
It's a whole topic in and of itself. But since we're talking about traveling with other people, I think the first thing to know is try to figure out what kind of traveler everybody in the group is. If that's like just two people or a family of 4 or 5, kind of understanding what it is that each person is trying to get out of their trip, and making sure that everybody's kind of has patience and understanding to that.
Yeah. So one thing that Derek and I, just as couples travel, have learned is that we both have pretty different interests. Needs, I guess, is a strong word, but interests in when we're traveling, and so Derek's really into photography, like I was mentioning several minutes ago, and I am too, but not to the extent that he really wants to wake up at sunrise and sunset every single day and take photos if possible. So I think what we've had to balance is what each other's priorities are. So For example, I'm a little bit more active. I like to walk around a city. I like to explore. And if I'm waking up at sunrise, it's a little bit harder to do that. So
I wouldn't say that makes you more active.
Hold on. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. But more.
I'm up running around at sunrise.
I'm saying active and explore open sites and landmarks and stuff like that.
She wants to go to museums more than I do.
Yeah.
I want to take pictures of pretty buildings.
Yeah.
Typically.
So when we create, our rough itineraries for our trips, we find it really important to talk through what is, the top priorities for both of us. And that really can, be a great thing to do regardless of if it's just a couple's trip or if it's anyone that you travel with. Just want to say hi to everybody too, new people real quick. Hey Galvant and gals, so great to have you back. Ronnie, thank you so much for joining. Terry Finley, hi. And then Megan Morris, yay. And Darlene, this is great. So great to have everybody on tonight. This is going to be a fun one, I can tell.
Yeah.
But I ended up wanting to just talk about a little bit more about family travel too, because we have had some experiences with traveling with multi-generation family units. Not just, as kids, but also as adults too. So I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about traveling with your family and my family and all that.
Sure. Well, I guess the first thing to think about when you're traveling with, multi-generational or people who have different just kind of, physical limitations or what have you is understanding what people can do and can't do. That way, if there's something like, hiking a mountain or something like that, somebody really feels strongly about, but somebody else in the group can't do, making sure that you kind of understand that, talk that out in advance, and if a certain part of the group splits off and does one thing while another part does something else, kind of having that built into your schedule and everything, so that you don't have people feeling like they're not being listened to or heard, or that their needs aren't being taken care of.
Yeah. And specifically with Derek's family, we're kind of mentioning this on some other live chats this week as this topic has come up a bit. He has an aunt and uncle who have told us about traveling with his grandfather post-stroke in Poland, throughout Poland, and what that was kind of like, with navigating sidewalks and stuff like that.
Because understanding that, if to the extent that, if there's somebody who has a mobility issue, right, going to a place that's going to require a lot of walking and maybe only has cobblestone streets and small winding roads is probably not going to be the ideal destination for them. Whereas a place like Warsaw, for instance, which was, completely rebuilt following World War II, has brought, much broader like sidewalks and things like that, and better infrastructure in place for people who maybe can't get around as easily. So, it's understanding those types of things and not... And
you can even look at Google Street View when booking a hotel or something like that, and trying to figure out, okay, well, is this hotel on top of a hill covered in cobblestones, and, how difficult is this going to be for someone with a little bit more limited mobility?
Yeah.
We even did that when we were staying in Colonial del Sacramento in Uruguay a couple years ago, because we had roller suitcases and there's cobblestones there. So we were trying to figure out, to get from the ferry terminal to our hotel, how long are we going to be rolling our suitcases across cobblestones, that sort of thing. Derek ended up making a call to just have a backpack that whole trip, just for that reason alone.
Yeah, when she says we had roller bags, she had a roller bag.
I did.
I had two backpacks going. I was that guy. I had the one backpack on the back, another one on the front, like I was a pregnant woman. It was a lot of fun.
But then in London, because I think we were talking about London a little bit when this question was posed. So I have traveled with some family members of mine plus Derek a couple years ago to London, and the interesting thing is the subway system is phenomenal, can get you anywhere, and really limits the amount that you walk. However, there are certain tube stations that have really, really long transfers, like a mile long sometimes, that you have to walk, specifically like the Bank tube stop, which is in the center of London and connects tons and tons of different lines. So with that, I had a family member who had injured her foot, and we were underground kind of halfway through that transfer, and all of a sudden she's like, I cannot walk much further. How much longer is this? And kind of we had to just cheer her on to get through, because there was no way out at that point. Like, you can't just hail a cab from underground. So it's one of those things where had the communication been a little bit better, and had we had a little bit more information in advance about what this underground subway excursion was going to entail, we would have been able to avoid that situation. London can be done really easily with, limited mobility. I would say even more so than a lot of other European destinations, because it's such a modern city and pretty flat. However,
talking about flat,
you might want to budget for taking Ubers and taxis everywhere. We've found that because we were a family of 5, we were all able to sit in the taxi at least together, whereas like an Uber, sometimes you like to have 5, you need to order that the extra large one. But in the London cabs, you could fit 5 people, and it can kind of...
Plus, for American tourists, they really like the idea of getting like that black cab. There's a little bit of
it's so cute.
It's a fun factor. They're not the most comfortable cars to ride in, but they do have a lot of like very high ceilings in them, which, fun fact, actually goes back to when like gentlemen used to wear like top hats or whatever. They had to be tall enough so a gentleman could sit down with his top hat on and not have to take it off. So the more you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not the most comfortable, but they look fun and they're cute in pictures. So
yeah. So I just wanted to say, like, London's doable. It's just, it's already an expensive city, and you might want to have to budget a little bit more money than you would normally with the transportation element if you're planning on going there with a little bit more limited mobility.
Yeah, I'd say that most countries are going to be doable, to some extent with limited mobility. I think you just need to make sure that you do kind of like your proper due diligence and research, accommodations and the places that you're going to make sure that they are handicap accessible to the extent that there are any major issues with.
And if you're planning
mobility
on using the subway with that kind of thing, like let's say you have like a broken toe and you just have a boot or something like that, but you shouldn't be walking down an escalator or a set of stairs. You should be like riding the escalator. You might want to make sure that there is an escalator in the subway closest to where you are staying and to whatever tourist destinations that you're trying to visit. Which is
New
easy
York's
to
a
Google
good New York's a good example of that, where not every metro stop in New York City has an elevator or an escalator, and many times if they do have escalators, they're not working for whatever reason. So just something to think about.
Yeah.
So getting on to like moving beyond the whole mobility issue and everything with that, there's still getting to kind of how do you think about planning a trip with a ton of different interested parties, right? So you planned our whole trip to London.
Yep.
With your family, and that had a lot of different people with a lot of different priorities.
It had the 2 of us, plus my aunt and uncle, who I'm very, very close with, plus my cousin, who's like my sister to me, who was 16 at the time. So it was my cousin's first time to Europe. So you guys know teenagers. She was super, super excited. So we all had different objectives, because I lived in London, first of all, so I had been to all of the tourist destinations, and certain things weren't as interesting to me as maybe would be to somebody who is brand new. So what we ended up doing was having...
It's actually something fairly similar to, I think, what Mache is saying.
Oh, yeah? What is... Okay, sorry, I'm a little bit...
Which is that she always asks each member of the family traveling what would be the one must-do or see.
Exactly.
That way we work something in for each person, which I think is similar to what you did.
Precisely. That is exactly what I did. And that's really great, Michelle, that you do that as well. So I made sure that we all got on the phone in advance and talked through... Well, I think there was 2 phone calls. The first phone call was to say, hey, I want you to think about this. And then we're going to come back on the next phone call and actually make some decisions. And Derek and I don't usually create a very structured itinerary when it's just the 2 of us. Not because it wouldn't be helpful, it's just we like to have a little bit more flexibility sometimes, especially with the weather and his photography. However, with my family, because there was 5 of us and everybody, we just wanted to make sure everybody's priorities got met. We made a very detailed itinerary compared to what we usually would. So I think it actually ended up working out pretty well, though. They're not on right now to verify, so this is just going to be our word for you guys. But it certainly was something that allowed us to understand, okay, what is the top? So like for my aunt, for example, her top thing was just to go to a high tea. And so what that gave us a little bit of wiggle room to say, all right, where in this, like there's a lot of different places to get high tea in the city.
But I mean, pretty quickly we knew we were going to do a day trip to Bath, and we knew that, there was a place in the Royal Crescent in Bath that we went to high tea, years and years ago, and loved it, and we're like, that'd be the perfect place to take your family. So. And
they loved it.
And that's a good like, if you're doing like a day trip to Bath, like having high tea kind of like set up at like 1 or 2 in the afternoon is kind of a perfect like break in the middle of the day. You've gone and done your morning sightseeing, you've walked around, you've probably gotten a little bit of lunch, and then it's a nice light snack to have, before you come back to the city.
Yeah, and like Derek, for example, was really wanting to get into some sort of landmark, whether it was the London Eye or something else that allowed him to take photos of the city from a high vantage point. So we ended up doing the Sky Garden.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Yes, and
Go
it's
check
free
that out.
as long as you book tickets in advance.
Like very, very far in
beautiful
advance.
Views
like
of the
months
city.
in advance.
Yes, well, maybe
like
weeks.
A month.
Yeah. But anyway, so when his needs were able to be met, I just really wanted to, even though I'd been to the Tower of London a bunch, that's my favorite landmark in London, so my top choice was to go to the Tower of London with everybody. And I can't remember what my uncle's top choice was. Or
Canterbury.
Alexis. Oh yeah, he wanted to go to Canterbury to see the cathedral, so we did a day trip out there.
Which was a lot of fun, by the way. Canterbury, which is in Kent, in England, is really cool. It's an easy day trip from London. You can go see, like, there's an ancient abbey there that's kind of in ruins that you can check out. But then they also have the cathedral. Is it a cathedral?
I don't know.
Whatever it is, big church, which is like the seat, which is like, it's the seat of the Anglican Church, I believe, or at least that's where like the main bishop or whatever resides. It was a really, really cool experience, beautiful church, cool ruins, and one of the great English traditions, which is punting, so going out on like a little river skiff or whatever with a guy kind of like pushing, kind of like a gondola. Is a lot of fun, and you can see the city pretty cool with like the canals and everything, and it's an interesting way to explore.
You can do that in Canterbury and at
you can do that in a lot of
Oxford
places.
And Cambridge.
Punting tours.
Really, really fun to do in the summertime, and gives you a great tour guide to basically tell you about the town.
I think we had like an Italian guy. It was kind of fun.
But then I think that my teenage cousin was really just wanting to like sit in an outdoor cafe and people watch, and so that was easy to accommodate. She just wanted to take in the vibe. So that being said, all of us had very, very different ideas for what would make a good vacation. So we were able to create an itinerary that incorporated all of those, which really helped out with everybody staying very happy and especially because everything was decided in advance. We weren't starting each day saying, what do you want to do?
Yeah, so that actually brings up something that Brian mentions here, which is that group trip planning requires a designated decision maker who stops the circling and just makes things happen.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. And that's why when there's a big group of people, you can't just kind of have a willy-nilly, itinerary that just has a bunch of like, oh, we'd like to do this, this, and this at some point in time. You kind of need to just like have it going, because the worst thing that you could do is start out every morning at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. meeting up for breakfast, and then kind of go around, as he's saying, going around the circle for 2 hours, and by noon you still haven't done anything.
Especially if there's people out there who don't know all the options either.
Yes, but if it's like, all right, today's the Tower of London, so we need to get there right when it opens, because we're going to just beeline for the crown jewels, so we skip that big line, and that's going to free up like 45 minutes to an hour of our time later in the day to like do something else. Yeah. So knowing that and having somebody like Liz who's going to make that decision and kind of get everything done is really important, and I think very much needed when you're traveling in a big group.
Yeah, and I booked all the train tickets at the same time, which I think you get some discounts from doing that if you spend over a certain amount. So it really helps to just solidify what's happening and just go.
Yeah.
All right, so let's catch up on the chat a little bit because
so my mom is drinking Malibu and pineapple juice. That's fun.
Cheers to you, Darlene.
Cheers.
Great job. What's Eric drinking?
That's probably what my dad's drinking, actually. Malcolm Hogan. Wife and I are walkers. We will walk around the city for hours looking at old buildings in Europe. Me too, Malcolm.
Oh, and by the way, yes, Derek's dad is named Eric.
That never got confusing growing up. I never know who my mom was yelling at. I just always assumed it was my dad, which was usually not the case.
But Derek's named after the person that introduced them, which is why that's the case.
Yeah. Galvans and Gals, we traveled with my mom and daughter for years, and for the last 5 years of her life, Mom was in a wheelchair, but we only did domestic at the time. That's understandable, because people who have like major mobility issues, doing a long haul flight could be pretty uncomfortable, I would assume, and having being able to do it like locally and in the U.S. where there's pretty good infrastructure. I mean, one of the things that you don't think about when you go to Europe for the first time is maybe lack of elevators within hotels, which is why we say it's really important to kind of look up in advance and figure out the infrastructure.
When Megan and I, not Megan Morris, sorry, but my friend Megan last fall, were staying in France, we had an elevator that would take us up to our floor. However, the actual floor had unevenness to it, so there was like 2 steps down to get to this little wing. And
we've had a number of those types of hotels,
and all throughout Europe that's really common. So even if you have an elevator, make sure to, if you know that the hotel has an elevator, you should still let them know that you have somebody in a wheelchair or whatever that can't do stairs.
Yeah, and the other thing is even if you don't have any sort of like mobility issues, like if you're bringing like big checked bags that weigh 50 pounds and you're a tiny 5 foot something.
I don't do that anymore, but
like you go to a hotel and it's like, oh, we're on the 3rd floor and we have these massive bags that we now need to carry up 3 flights. Guess who ends up doing it? This guy. And I'm like not yelling, but I'm like wheezing by the end. I'm like, oh my god, like what did you do to me? Like it's something to think about.
You have to like sweat through your shirt.
That's why like at this point like we almost only do carry-ons at this point. Occasionally if we're going somewhere for a long time and we need to pack for like a bunch of different like things, like if there's a wedding or something, so we know we're gonna need to check a bag for like suits and dresses. Then we'll probably pack one, but we might bring one less carry-on or something like that to make up for it. So we try to minimize luggage, but that is something to think about. Regardless, is like not everywhere is the U.S. Not everywhere has like great big elevators. Sometimes they're even like tiny elevators.
Yeah.
Like, we've been in hotels that have elevators can maybe fit 3 people with no luggage, like this, or like 1 person with luggage. So you just kind of need to.
And especially if you're taking trains, the luggage racks on trains can be pretty small as well. So it's something to keep in mind. That
Or super high, like very
super high
up,
up, or just too small for a big
Yep.
suitcase. All right.
Malcolm's making a good point, though, that 2-wheeled bags are better than 4 on cobblestones.
Yeah.
So on cobblestones, yeah, no, I would totally
The
agree.
lucky
That
thing
like
is
the
that
bigger
4-wheeled
wheels,
bags can turn into 2-wheeled bags pretty easily.
but the typical 2-wheeled bags have like more like secure and larger wheels, which makes them much better than like the little gyroscoping ones that you would have otherwise. So I would agree with that. But a backpack, better still.
Not all of us like to carry. I feel like backpacks just are. I mean, they overwhelm me.
Well, back sweat is a big issue.
Back sweat. Let's not get into all the sweaty details that I feel like we're starting to dip our toes into.
All right. We already talked about Brian's thing about group trip planning.
Michelle is saying, we built in some downtime requested by my 21-year-old. He wants just to be in the midst of things and not have an agenda. My hubby, on the other hand, is a go, go, go kind of person, all about balance. Totally. That's kind of what I was mentioning with my cousin as well. She just really wanted to experience the atmosphere of a place, and that is something that I think a lot of people, not just, that generation, is interested in. A lot of people just want to sit and watch people go by, and that's relaxing to them. So,
well, I mean, one of the great joys in like Paris is
cafe
sitting
culture.
at a cafe along the Seine, drinking wine after eating like a steak or whatever. Because at a cafe you can get steak, wine, and like fries. Like it's a beautiful
and
thing.
The table is yours as long as you want it.
The table's yours. And so just sitting there with your like glass of rosé or whatever, and like just watching French people walk by is a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I totally understand that sentiment. And it's hard when you have that push and pull of 2 different types of personalities. And I think, hopefully everybody's traveling with people that they at least know enough about their personality to figure out the dynamics. What I always like to say is, don't expect somebody's personality to change just because the location has changed. They are probably going, if you are traveling with somebody who's introverted at home, they're probably going to be introverted anywhere else too, or vice versa. So the difference between an introvert and extrovert is an extrovert, of course, gets a lot of energy from interacting with other people.
Whereas an introvert kind of gets drained by it.
Yeah.
So, it's something to think about.
So that's a tip that I think we all need to start thinking through when we're talking about itineraries, is also building in downtime. So at least we've never created anything that's like by the hour itinerary, but
we typically have like a start time, and then we have specific things maybe peppered throughout the day where it's like, all right, then we need to be here by this time. And
Derek's start time is always like 15 minutes earlier because he's always late to everything.
Yep. Except for the sunrise. I'm on time for sunrise.
Somehow he's on time for sunrise and then nothing else. But that's, I wish I could say I was joking, but I'm not. So, anyway.
I was on time for a wedding.
You were on time for a wedding.
There we go.
So, building in that extra kind of wiggle room of if somebody needs to take a nap because they're exhausted. Like maybe we've had several situations where maybe I have way worse jet lag than Derek does or something. And just letting people do their own thing for at least minimum an hour can really help it with a trip.
Well, it's not only that, but it's also, just because you're traveling with people doesn't mean you have to be with them 24 hours a day. Like, that's not how it should be. That's just not how we are as people. So, I mean, to take an example, Brian, who's on here right now, when we were all together in Italy, I mean, we had certain times where we met up in Lake Como, hung out, and then they went off and did their own thing for like a couple of days. We went off and did our own thing. in Milan, and then we met up again in Milan. So, you can even do things where you're like you are together as a big group for a while, and then maybe you break off into like smaller groups for some time and come back together. Like that's totally fine. That should be something that people think about.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be hard feelings about that either. And there won't be, as long as people talk about it, communicate it in advance, and figure it out.
That's something that you can do with like a bunch of adults. But if
you can't just drop kids off and be like, get out of here?
I don't think so.
Oh, man.
I don't know. We're not parents, but I'm pretty sure.
I think that's why some people like cruises, because you can kind of do that with cruises, from what I understand.
Oh, yeah, so you can speak to cruises and how that works.
Well, I've never had kids on a cruise.
Oh, that's right. I thought you had taken a cruise with your family before, but
no,
never mind.
I didn't get to go on that. No, I mean, but like a lot of times on cruises, they have like kids-only areas and stuff like that, so you can like kind of have your kids go off and just like do their own thing, from what I understand. This is what bosses of mine have told me. Where they go hang out, do their own thing, and like the adults can like kind of like have their own time. So that's pretty cool. I guess in Europe you can't just be like, yeah, get out of here, kid.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that in London.
And even just so people can check in like with their emails, and kids can check in with their Snapchats and stuff like that. Like, just giving
TikTok.
everybody a little bit of downtime. Yeah, apparently TikTok's a thing, So, what else? So Karen Mack is saying, I organize sightseeing in the morning and the downtime, like sitting at the cafe or at a park in the afternoon, so everyone is happy and there is something for them, for all of them in our family of 4. That's really smart.
Yeah.
And I think that's a tactic that a lot of families use too, is to kind of schedule one bigger thing each day, and then the rest of the time is a little bit more loose. So that way everybody can be together but still have at least one fun activity to look forward to each day. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way, especially if there's anything that you're trying to go to that is kind of on a first come first serve type basis. I mean, I think that really lends itself to trying to get there first thing in the morning before a line forms. And that can be anything from like we had mentioned before, getting to the Tower of London and getting in there as soon as possible so you can skip the line, go check out the crown jewels, etc. Or if you're in Nashville,
yeah,
and you want Hattie B's hot chicken, get there like 15 to 20 minutes before it opens, wait in line, and then you can go have some of the best freaking hot chicken in Nashville and not wait, hours.
Out of curiosity, as we catch up on the chat, if any of you guys out there travel with your families, I'm wondering how many of you book restaurant reservations in advance and kind of know where you're going to eat each day versus try to figure it out based on what you're feeling like having.
Because when we were in Scotland, I was like fish and chips all day every day.
When we were in Scotland, we ran into an issue where we should have booked reservations further in advance, and a lot of because there's not as many restaurants in rural Scotland, surprisingly, as there are like in downtown Chicago. So we were like, oh, we can't just walk into whatever we're feeling like.
Well, we only really made
when we went during high season, it was pretty booked.
Yeah, we only really made like advanced reservations in like Edinburgh and stuff.
Yeah.
And like Glasgow and stuff, where we were.
I think
like,
we made
going
one
like,
in Inverness too, at like a nicer place.
Yeah, like when we were going to like nice restaurants. We just, I don't know why, we had just assumed like smaller towns would just be like, oh, you can just like walk into the pub. And we found that was not necessarily the case all the time. So yeah, I don't remember.
Well, we also went during high season and everybody had already booked all the tables. So
one
it
of
was
not Glenlivet. What was the place? Was it Glenlivet? What was the place that has the Oban? We went to Oban, right?
Oh, yes. And
so we were in
Oban was our first stop, and we hadn't made any restaurant reservations.
And, like, there's no way to get into any of the restaurants in town.
We literally couldn't eat anywhere.
And so we just ended up going. We found a fish and chips place that we're like, there's people there. Let's just go. And I love fish and chips. The first meal that we had in Scotland was fish and chips. The second meal we had in Scotland was also fish and chips because of this. I point at her, but it really was probably my fault. But because I'm the restaurant guy, I'm the foodie person in the family. But it was still fun. It was nice. We ate our fish and chips. like on a bench,
Yeah.
looking out on the water, which is pretty cool. Like, it was nice.
But that's a little bit different than our approach when we went to England a few months prior with my family, because several of us in my family have dietary restrictions, so we needed to kind of research restaurants in advance for what we were able to go to, and just make sure, we kind of planned around what neighborhood in London would make sense. So it all depends on the needs of the family, and the destination, I think, too. But I'm curious what you guys typically do.
Yeah. So Brian, I don't know if we saw this, but he says that just being in a city is the best, and that he loves wandering through cities like Paris and just taking them in aimlessly.
Yeah.
That's so nice. Me too, Brian. Me too.
You guys can go together. And just
Brian, let's go on a trip.
Time.
Just you and me, just walking aimlessly through Paris. That sounds like a blast. Al is saying it's great to have enough time to take in the atmosphere of a place, and I agree. And actually, Paris is a great example of that, where, the first time, so we had went to Paris together back in college, 11 years ago. And we went back again when we were going to go down to the Loire Valley. And so we flew into Paris, we did a weekend in Paris, drove down to the Loire Valley, did all of that, had some great wine, some delicious cheese, and then we did the second weekend in Paris before we came back. And that first weekend was really about, going back to those places that we hadn't been to for so many years, and that we just wanted to do the touristy sightseeing things. Like, let's go do the Notre Dame, let's go do the Eiffel Tower, all that stuff. And then the second weekend we're like, all right, we already checked all those boxes, so let's just have fun, hang out. We were staying in a pretty cool part of town. So that second time, Eliz looks at me.
So much more fun the second time.
Eliz looks at me and she's like, I see why people like Paris.
Yeah. And
it was
it's
so
not
cool.
that I didn't like it before. It was just, it became magical.
Yeah.
That time. So
I agree. Having that time to kind of breathe and just take it in is really nice.
Yeah. So I feel like we skipped, Malcolm said to Karen, by 4 p.m, he stops for a drink. It's one of him and his wife's things. I love that.
Nice. Eric Brown agrees. Checking bags is no good. He likes the carry-ons.
Yeah. Well, I fly standby a lot, actually, so I need to do carry-on unless I feel like being really, really risky. Because technically I could check a bag, but that puts me in quite a predicament if things don't go my way with standby.
Okay. All right, so it looks like my mom was drinking Malibu and pineapple because my dad is drinking tequila and pineapple.
Yes.
So that's fun. And he was saying cheers to my Uncle Mark.
Yeah, so it's Mark's birthday today.
Oh, no. I need to call him. Happy birthday, Uncle Mark. I love you.
As if there weren't enough Marks we talk about on this chat.
Yeah. So Michael Mon, though, is saying that over time we've morphed into the if you can't carry it yourself, don't bring it mode, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think that's something that Rick Steves actually forces people to do if they attend one of his tours. It's something that we went to see Rick Steves speak the past 2 years at a convention in Chicago.
Yeah. If you're ever interested in seeing Rick Steves speak in person, the Travel and Adventure Show, is that what it's called?
Yep.
Is something that he does, I think, annually.
And it's in multiple cities.
He's one speaker among a ton of speakers. The Fromers, people are there. Samantha Brown is usually there. Josh Gates was there this year. The guy from what's it called? What's his show?
I don't know.
He's one of those travel channel guys.
Rudy Maxa?
No, Josh Gates.
Right.
He talks about adventure.
Oh, are you still talking about Josh Gates? Sorry.
Okay. But yeah, no, there's a lot of cool speakers and stuff. But it's a really cool time to be able to see Rick Steves give his talk about everything around travel and Europe through the back door and all that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah. But I definitely picked up a lot of great packing tips from having to watch Rick Steves talk about Carry On Only, and one of his female guides has a really great talk about that as well.
Yeah.
You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, so Malcolm is saying that he doesn't get jet lag, but his wife does. And because of that, they take it very slow on the first day.
Yeah.
And they're coming from New Zealand, so they have very long flights if they're going to like Europe or anywhere, really.
Even though like Australia is pretty long.
Yeah. So, you know, but that's a good point, and that's something that we do whenever we travel together. And when we travel with other people, we make sure to do it because we're like, people are going to be jet lagged. I don't care what everybody thinks. Like, oh, I'll be like ready to go.
Is going to be.
Somebody's going to be miserable, so like, let's not do anything that anybody thinks is like significant or important on that first day.
Yeah.
That's always our plan.
And then Malcolm also said his wife is a vegetarian, so that can get interesting. Yeah, so traveling with other people who have any sort of dietary, first of all, differences from you, and also allergies or, dietary restrictions, that can limit what restaurants you go to, or you just have to be really diligent about contacting the restaurants in advance. So I've mentioned a lot of times before, I don't really eat dairy. I'm lactose intolerant. And luckily I'm not allergic to dairy like my uncle is, but I, tried to navigate away from it. And just finding those types of options, especially in places where I don't speak the language, can be a little bit challenging. So researching in advance is really key, and communicating to all of the people that I'm traveling with in advance. I am not going to be participating in this gelato run or something like that. Or if we're planning on doing a gelato run, I might make a game time decision on that. So I think just
when in doubt, I always eat gelato.
Sometimes Derek eats keto. It's just one of those things where a lot of people have different dietary needs right now.
I have not been keto on quarantine. I have been eating all the bread, all the pasta, all that good stuff. So, Darlene Zacarias, though, says that Miami South Beach is a fun place to people watch, and I would agree. It is a fun place to watch people. You see a lot of different characters down there. And Miami's just a fun place generally. So
I like people watching with Darlene in general.
Yeah. Katie Smith, we don't reserve restaurants, but we should. Figuring out when hangry is not fun.
Yes.
She gets hangry.
I certainly do.
And I don't always think about it.
I at least am like, I have the self-awareness to admit when I'm hangry, and I'll say,
yeah, that's so much better.
I know that I'm
being horrible, but I'm hangry.
Yeah,
it's like, okay,
please,
I get it.
I think I say, please feed me. I need to eat right now.
Because of that, I'm always just like, you have like bars in your bag, right? Like you're bringing like snacks. You got to bring snacks.
Not everybody is self-aware like that. So
what I will say is like where it becomes an issue with us is because I'm like really into sunset photography, which in the summertime can be pretty late. So I don't want to get stuck at a restaurant and then like miss the sunset, because then I would be in a very cranky mood. Or
vice versa, have like a 8 p.m. restaurant reservation, then he gets cranky.
Yeah, because I'm missing a beautiful sunset. So, because of that, we're always like trying to figure all that stuff out.
We have to communicate about snacks.
Yeah. All right, so we have Megan Moore saying that her cousin planned a family trip to Napa, Sonoma a few years ago, and he planned every detail, including nap time and dinner reservations. It was kind of refreshing not having to make any decisions. That's cool. Nap time, I like it. Was that in between wineries? That's what I want to know. It's like, okay, we're going to hit Chateau Montelena, and then Beringer, and then it's nap time in the car, and then we continue.
I always have
She
found
had nap time
that
in the car.
more you plan, the more it gets screwed up. But I'm glad to hear it sounds like you didn't really have that as an part of the experience. But, some people really want to have that structure and feel like they're more in control with that. And I think, being able to understand, like I was saying before, what everybody's personalities are in advance. And I'm sure you knew that your cousin in advance was a little bit type A.
Control is an illusion.
So I'm sure it didn't come out of nowhere. So when you agree to take a trip with somebody, just talking through like what type of travel style that they have is going to be key.
So Michelle is saying that 10 of us on a Disney trip made reservations for dinner well in advance. When it's just immediate family, though, they don't make reservations that early. Yeah, and it kind of depends on where you're going, right? It's, if you're going to a place where it's going to be highly competitive, get tables, and if you have a ton of people,
or if you have
which
an
makes
odd
it very
number,
hard.
like when we traveled with 5 people, getting a table for 5 is so much more challenging than a table for 4 or 2. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah. So Michelle is also saying that they stumbled on a restaurant on the Royal Mile that had the best Cullen skink.
Awesome.
What is that?
I don't know.
I don't know what a Cullen skink is, but it sounds interesting. I'm intrigued. Gallivanting Gals, we always plan downtime to people watch, grab a drink, or just see where we end up. ...
I love it.
Now I'm intrigued by the ellipses. Which is always fun. No, but no, I mean, that's good. Like, having, like, cocktail hour at the end of the night or whatever is always awesome. And, you can, like, find yourself in, like, some cool situations. Meet some cool people, too.
You can get inspired by the locals and really just try to understand them so much more when you're just observing them.
Yeah, Eric Brown is agreeing with my mom that South Beach is great for people watching, but adds that Venice Beach in California is awesome. And
fact.
Yes, Venice Beach is awesome. First of all, not just Venice Beach, but like the Venice canals are really, really cool, and it's like a great place to like walk around, stroll, take pictures and whatnot. But then Venice Beach itself is like home to like Muscle Beach, and so you can like see like all these like swole dudes and stuff like doing crazy stuff. It is also home to the Muscle Up King, who's this like jacked dude who's like just like on a playground doing like muscle ups and stuff.
And there's like all the people on their rollerblades and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's crazy. I have a friend who lives in Venice, or she lives in Santa Monica, but does rollerblading at Venice Beach. She's really cool to follow on Instagram. Let me tell you.
Yeah. So all right. So my mom's actually chiming in on the cruises, which is saying that cruises with kids are great. We took Evan, that's my little brother, he's much younger than I am, on the Disney cruise, and he stayed out in the kids zone until 2 a.m., which gave the adults a chance to go to the comedy club and just have adult time. Fun. I did not ever go on a cruise with my parents.
By the way, if the Finleys are still on, I think Evan is about the same age as you were describing your son is, and sounds like they're both into those video game stuff too.
Yeah. Evan loves video games.
Yeah.
Gallivanting Gals, we usually check bags depending on length of trip and different climates. If we were doing 14 days or less, we carry on only, but typically for 6 to 12 week trips, we check at least one bag.
Interesting. That's funny that you say it that way.
Interesting, yeah.
Well, first of all, I don't think we've ever been on a 6 to 12 week trip, which sounds amazing, and I'm again really jealous of you.
No, the longest trip we've ever been on, other than when we studied abroad, the longest trip we've ever been on is our honeymoon, which was 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Unless you count this quarantine, which has been a very long trip.
But I can understand just wanting a little bit of variety in like what clothes you have after that amount of time. And being able to combine both of your things into one suitcase can be really nice too.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, I understand that with like checking bags for like 6 to 12 weeks, but you don't have to, obviously, because if you can go for 14 days, it's unlikely that you're bringing 14 days worth of clothes. You're probably doing sink laundry or some sort of laundry along the way at some point. When we did our 3.5 weeks, we did it with the carry-on in South America, and the way we did that was we were doing sink laundry probably every other day just to kind of keep ahead of it, just with socks and undergarments and things like that. And then one time when we were down in Bariloche, we went to like a laundromat and did laundry that way.
Yeah.
But,
One thing to add, though, is most likely if you're on a 6 to 12 week trip, you're going to be experiencing different climates. And I doubt that you're going to be staying in one place the entire time unless you're really relocating to that place. So, in that regard, you might want different types of layering options. So when we were in South America, we ran into an issue where, like, one week we were in, highs in the 50s Fahrenheit, and the next week we were in highs in the hundreds Fahrenheit, and we just didn't have enough clothes for each of those temperatures.
well, we didn't really bring much clothes at all for the like 50s.
Yeah, for the cold weather.
We didn't realize how cold it was
But
going to be.
in that place, we made it work.
We made it work because we were like hiking
In
and
the
stuff.
hundreds, I mentioned this before. Derek went out to a store and bought tank tops.
I did.
It was not flattering.
Hey, that's mean.
Oh, sorry, I love you.
We were
I think he's gonna come back and rejoin this. No, just kidding. But yeah, we were in like a scenario where it just jumped like 50 full degrees week over week, and we had to make it work. And so it definitely would have been nice if we had a little bit more clothing options to choose from. All right, so let me catch up here. Gallivanting gals, we both get a bit jet lagged and found that taking the odd day flight to Europe works best because we land at night and are ready to grab food and go to bed. It helps get more than night. It helps. Oh my gosh, he's wearing his tank top.
This is the tank top I bought.
It says like hang loose, and he bought it in Argentina. Anyway, so
I don't know why there was a
wait.
surf
Stay
shop.
here for a second because you need to speak to this particular comment. So the gallivanting gals are saying that they take the. They didn't use this term, but this is what Derek calls it, the chairman's flight.
Ooh, it's a good flight.
So
it's my favorite flight to London.
He can explain why it's called that, and why it's also his favorite thing to do if the opportunity presents itself.
Where's their comment about this?
Right. I don't know. I missed it. Oh, here. But you can just start talking about it.
Okay, yeah. No, so, day flights to Europe are awesome because, you usually take off in the morning.
Which there's usually only like one day flight to
Yeah,
Europe.
from like Chicago, for instance. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but like, yeah, probably per city, per
city.
airline, if you're lucky, right? So there's a flight on American from Chicago O'Hare to Heathrow, and I think it leaves at like 8 or 9 a.m. or something like that, and gets you in like late in London. But you land, you go to sleep in a bed, you wake up the next day, and you're like
So
ready
Derek's
to go.
done it where he's landed, because I think you land at like
11
10 or 11 at night,
yeah.
and he'll just stay at an
the airport.
hotel at Heathrow, and then
Wake up the next day and go into the city from there.
yeah.
Which is a great way to do it. Say like the Sofitel or something like that in Heathrow.
And if you have a lot of time to spend anyway, it can really help with jet lag. Why is it called the chairman's flight, Derek?
Because you get to drink like a chairman? I don't know. Well, because usually
No,
you
it's
don't
'cause
have the option to do that.
I thought it was because companies really want that flight to exist, so that way...
Well, super senior people like chairmen want
Super
that
senior
flight to
people.
exist.
Can take it.
Most people don't get that option, in corporate America because, time is precious. So they're like, take the red eye, go straight into your meeting, so like you don't lose as much time in working. That's why it's usually more like senior people that take that flight. I have lucked out and taken that flight before, which is nice, and I highly recommend it. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Plus, then you don't have to like. The worst thing about like the red eyes is you get on and going even from Chicago to Europe. If you don't like go to sleep immediately, you're not getting a full night's sleep. You're gonna get like 4 hours, 3 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
And so, not having to worry about that and just getting to enjoy the flight, that's a good way to do it because, you have free alcohol You know,
And Derek watches back-to-back movies.
I love just binge watching whatever's on the airplane. You know, movies I would never watch it otherwise, I will watch on airplanes. It's so good.
Totally. Oh my gosh, we're really behind. I just want to say I just saw that Jocelyn's on. So hi, Jocelyn.
Hey, Jocelyn.
We hadn't even scrolled down far enough, so apologies. All right, we're catching up.
Okay.
We got this. Let's rapid fire round.
Brian is saying espresso and fresh air defeat jet lag quite successfully. Yeah, I like all those things. Find a cafe in Amsterdam near coffee shops. It's fun to watch the coffee shop patrons. And by coffee shops, she means coffee shops, not coffee shops, i.e.
Coffee shops sell herbs.
Herbs.
Okay. And then cafes sell coffee.
She's saying go check out the people buying the herbs because they are interesting folks. And actually, we our hotel and our room actually was like right above a coffee shop, and so every time we get back to our room, it would smell like herbs. And the reason was because whenever they would clean our room in Amsterdam, they would open up the windows and it would just like waft in. Yeah. And I was always just like, whoo! It's the good stuff out there. Hangry. Oh wait, Kabaki.
Rachel says
one of my favorite things.
One of my favorite things about traveling is getting lost and finding things and local people I would never usually come across. I think you're totally right. And Rachel and I have traveled together too before. And some of my best memories from that trip, especially to Ireland with you, was just hanging out at bars and talking to people and just trying to live like a local.
One of our most memorable experiences, I think, from our trip to Scotland was when we met the like local Scottish dude at the bar who was just like singing for drinks, basically. Like that was awesome.
That was great. Michelle is saying, hangry is why you carry trail mix, nuts, and jerky. Totally. I try to carry snacks everywhere for myself. And Derek never carries snacks for himself.
I don't get hangry.
So, yeah. It's just based on what you think your needs are going to be.
My mom has let us know there's Josh Gates, Expedition Unknown.
Yeah.
That is right.
And Rachel, you were right with that. Best things are seen when you are misplaced. Yeah, Malcolm, that's totally true. And then Karen says, I used to get hangry too, so my husband used to carry snacks for me. I was not self-aware either. I am much better now.
Nice. That's growth. That's growth, Karen.
I wish Derek would carry snacks for me.
I don't have a purse.
But we haven't gotten to that level yet. Gallivanting Gal says, when we plan everything, we usually miss something because we took longer at one place or whatever. So we basically just have a list of must-dos and then nice to-dos. Totally. It's funny that you say it that way because I think that's an approach that I might start implementing a little bit more because I like to think of things as kind of like the must-haves and the nice-to-haves in a lot of things in life, and so you just want to make sure that you hit all your must.
Or as a marketer would say, an order qualifier.
Order qualifier and order winner.
And then there's the Venn diagram, and where it's in the middle, that's the product you want.
Yeah, let's not get too nerdy.
Start
Everyone's
talking about the
out.
4 Ps.
Please
next.
stay on this chat. The only person left on is Mark Walters.
Tell
okay.
me more. No,
sorry, I lost
track. All right, matcha.
Mache.
God, I was thinking it was like matcha. Matcha. Mache is saying it is a soup, haddock, and potato, so that must be to the Cullen skink that we were talking about before.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Kubaki.
I would eat that.
Interacting with local people is usually one of the best memories. Exchanging names, taking pictures with them, that will be...
It's been really important to her recently. Yeah, and Rachel just went to Bali. I mean, sorry, not Bali. Thailand, and Cambodia.
Angkor Wat and all that.
And yeah, it just sounded like a really cool trip. Got to meet a lot of locals there. And that was at the end of February.
Megan Morris is saying that nap time between wineries and dinner is crucial when in wine country.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Sometimes it's crucial between just like
Sometimes I take naps
wineries.
when Derek is drinking at the wineries in
That
the car.
has happened. I went to one winery and they're like, "Are you here by yourself?" I'm
yeah,
like,
Derek
well,
met a lot of great people when
like,
he got
well,
to go in by himself.
no, my wife is asleep in the car, but I left the windows cracked, so it's okay. And that got a lot of laughs. That got a lot of laughs at the
he became
winery.
really popular.
Yeah. Bought some wine. She wasn't around to stop me, so it was great.
They probably thought you were making that up, actually.
I'm like, no, you can go check.
No, like there's really
No, seriously,
there's a
she's out
woman
there. She's out
asleep
there
in the
asleep.
car.
She took, medicine before doing wine tasting.
Yeah,
And that was the end of her.
I get allergies in California that I don't get anywhere else, and I took Sudafed stupidly before going on a wine tasting thing. Ugh, don't ever do that. Okay, so gallivanting gals, the way we don't feel overwhelmed with so much we have to do. Yeah, Derek could be anything depending on where we are. I don't know if I know what they were talking about from that. Malcolm is saying.
Maybe it's the ... ellipses. I don't know.
Yeah, Malcolm is saying 4 to 8 weeks for us to make it worth going. If you
Nice.
have the time off, do it.
That's
Seriously. Gallivanting gals, our challenge is we usually end up over shoulder seasons and can swing from 35 to 70 degrees. Yes. So I figured that's what you were kind of referencing. And those temperature swings, I mean, they can happen any time of the year,
Yeah.
I suppose. But they can be brutal, and bringing enough layers is really important. So then Jocelyn said, Derek downing the wine with authority. It is marked on Jocelyn's computer.
So it's actually Mark.
Now I know. Hello, Mark.
Welcome, sir.
I missed that part. He also said that we need means to travel quarter zips. We actually have means to travel t-shirts and mugs.
We do need a quarter zip.
We could do a quarter zip. We
We
have
have
not
hats.
sold any of them yet. We have not created a store.
Yeah, we don't. I've
we
handed
could.
out quite a few mugs.
I didn't know if anybody would actually be interested, so
Yeah.
we have them for
Ourselves. We
Ourselves.
give them to family. We're like,
Family
hey,
members.
wear this around. If people ask, send them to
we
her
did.
YouTube.
I don't know if you noticed when I mentioned it last night on the chat, but we did buy Pause for the World shirts a few days ago. So we're looking forward to those coming in.
Yeah, so if anybody, I think a lot of you guys are on Mark's channel
Or
and
at least
stuff,
know
but
who
or
Mark
know
and
who
Jocelyn are.
Mark and Jocelyn are, but for anybody who doesn't, they're doing a really cool thing called, Pause for the World, which allows them to give back to either charity or to some sort of creator or somebody who's affected by COVID-19. And not able to make money or something along those lines. And so if you go onto their site and go for Pause for the World, you can buy a t-shirt or a quarter zip or what have you.
And the default is Meals on Wheels.
And the
charity.
default is Meals on Wheels. So if you buy a shirt, $10 of that purchase will go to Meals on Wheels. So it's pretty cool.
But if you know anybody who owns a small business that's struggling right now during
salons,
coronavirus,
massages, whatever.
Yeah, literally, basically anybody that has a tax ID number sort of thing can sign up for this, and you can buy a T-shirt and they'll get $10 from the sale. So it's pretty awesome. Well done, Mark and Jocelyn. You guys really crushed it. Okay, so I think that's just mostly everybody saying hi to Mark and Jocelyn. Mark's computer battery is dead. You've been active. Needs a little bit of charging. Wow, Derek looking studly. Again, Mark typing on Jocelyn's account.
I assume that's when I came with my...
I feel like you guys have some sort of like really cool bro friendship that I don't get to be part of. So me and Jocelyn have to start something cool.
and Mark, you were talking yesterday. You were like, I feel like Derek dragged Eliz to the channel. Unfortunately, it was actually she found you guys first.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I will give her that credit.
For sure.
But we love watching your guys' content, so it's a lot of fun. All right, Brian. New York City to London has several daytime flights. There we go.
Interesting. Awesome.
The more you know.
And Brian works
for an airline. And he would know. Gallivanting Gals.
Say which one, but it's one that people like here.
Gallivanting Gals. We usually fly JFK or Boston to Heathrow. Interesting. So I almost always do O'Hare, being in Chicago, but yeah, no, I mean JFK, has some really good flights over there. So
And so sorry. So I usually fly Delta when I go out. So I'll typically try to do some of the smaller Delta hubs that fly to Europe. So JFK can be a nightmare when trying to fly standby. Because a lot more business travelers in New York City book last minute than in a lot of other places in the country. So, and just the weather in that area of the country can really affect a lot of the flights coming in and out. So, I try to fly out of Detroit, which has a lot of international flights to Europe, especially, and also to Asia. And I have a lot of good luck with Detroit.
yeah. All right, so Mark is saying that Jocelyn gets to sleep and so do the boys, but I never get a wink of sleep. I am a mess. I binge watch all the time. Air France has some amazing documentaries. That is good to know, Mark.
Mark's seen it all.
That is something like, up until all of this stuff that started happening, I was flying so much with work that I would actually get excited when they would like revamp their like videos on flights on American, because I was flying so much that I was like, I've literally watched everything on American that I want to watch.
Yeah.
And like a new video would come out and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome.
So Derek flew around the world 3.5 times last year on American alone.
Yeah, so I was like so
he
excited.
saw the gamut that they had in their entertainment system. Oh, actually, this reminds me. I gave Mark, because he was first to join, moderator privileges. But I should probably give some other people moderator privileges as you continue running through this.
Right,
just
so
in case we get a troll, because clearly we fall very behind in chats and we have no idea.
We have no idea.
So I'm gonna start giving everybody moderator privileges, and if you see somebody come in, just shoo them away.
Okay. So Mark is saying contact high. That's fun. Malcolm is saying Auckland to Doha, 18 hours, plenty of time for sleep. Yeah. Super long haul flights, plenty of time to sleep on a plane. I totally agree with that. I think that is a great, I actually prefer the super long haul to like just like a 6 or 7 hour flight, if I'm being honest. Going to Europe or going to Asia for me is like really cool.
Yeah, you can
fun.
sleep a little bit more, which is also nice when you land.
Yeah. Al is saying that he's sorry that you got the hangry from him, but it gets better with age.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that, Al. I'm looking forward to it getting better with age.
Everything about me gets better with age.
I can't.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
You're just
yeah,
like
here we are.
scrolling everywhere.
I was just trying to find all the
Okay.
people to give them moderator privileges.
All right, Brian. Goodbye. We miss you already, my friend. I hope you have a great night. But Mark, so it looks like Mark got his computer working.
Now he's on Professor Walters.
Now he's on. He was on Walter's World. He's on Professor World.
Jocelyn,
okay.
then Walter's World.
Wow. Okay, that's fun. So he's saying everyone click like. It does make a difference. Thank you. Yeah, if you would go in and click the like button, that would be awesome. We would love that. That'd be super helpful. And Mark is saying that he got on his own account, so he would throw everyone off. It's awesome. And now he's saying that the 4 P's forever, # marketing life.
Yeah.
Product,
We're so
price,
cool.
place, and promotion. Yeah. There we go. I'm not a marketing person. Galvin Gals. Yes, he is logged on to all of his accounts now. Left the window, crack.
Oh, and Rachel, it's pause for the world, Pause.
Not PAWS.
And a lot of the T-shirts have like a pause symbol on them.
Yeah. Sometimes a pause symbol within like a globe looking thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Darlene said something fantastic, which is Eric says, who's Derek's dad, Derek with a fanny pack with Eliz's snacks in it while wearing your tank top. It's a look. That's a look. And
it's
it
a
would
look
be
I've
super
never
helpful.
Be so good. You just skipped a bunch of stuff.
No, I did. Oh,
okay, never mind.
No,
No, we're good.
fine. Okay.
Okay, so all right, yeah. So Mark is saying that the fact that I left the window cracked for you when you slept in the car makes me a good husband, and that there's an award in my future.
Certainly.
Yeah. I'm a mensch. What can I say?
All of that's a true story.
It's all true. And you know what? She still loves me.
I'm pretty sure I drove after that too, because Derek had like a lot of wine, and then I got my sleep in.
Yeah, let's not talk about us driving on that trip. If you're going to Napa, if you're going to wine country generally, get a driver. It's a safe and important thing to do.
Yeah.
So Mark is saying that you can all sign up, and this is screwing me up now, where I'm like, Jocelyn, professor.
I know,
okay.
We're like finally catching up on all of the topics
Yeah.
we talked about 10 minutes ago. So sorry about that. We're almost there.
Yeah. So anybody who what Mark is saying though is that anybody who wants to sign up can sign up to earn money and help out either their business or a local charity or church, they're choosing. So if you want to help out, for instance, your local food bank, you could sign up an account on your own and have the proceeds go to your local food bank. So you could do that as well, which is pretty cool.
Megan, that's hysterical. It's like, have you heard of Anthony Bourdain? I know, it was just such a question. Also, you had a phenomenal question last night for real about Jocelyn, if she liked Dean or Jess better, and she never answered that.
The answer is Team Logan.
Derek likes Logan.
I mean,
we are
he was a
talking
dreamboat.
about a
Come on.
television show, and we will stop talking about it very soon, I promise.
Gilmore Girls for the win. Pause or pause, $10, fanny pack. Mark Finley, it's pause like Pause, but my brain thinks pause, Paws. Which, I mean, if you look at that is really my joy right now, is like waking up and going to BuzzFeed to find like the new like pet animal videos. Specifically, pets ruining their owners' like workouts. Like people trying to do like yoga and then their dog like tackles them because they think she's like trying to play. That for me is just like all the worm. Like that's so fun for me.
Mark Finley, thank you guys so much, Mark and Terry, for joining. Really awesome to have you guys on, and we will definitely see you tomorrow. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, and then Malcolm's asking, how many countries have we driven in? That's a good question. How many countries have we driven in?
We've driven in the United States.
We were in South America. We drove in Argentina and Uruguay, but not Chile, right?
Not Chile.
Okay.
So that's 3, and then we've driven in England.
Canada?
No, not England. We've driven in Scotland.
Italy.
We didn't drive in Canada.
Oh, never mind.
We drove in. Yes, I didn't drive in Canada. We drove in Italy, France, and Scotland.
Yes. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the places we've just taken like public transit or trains and planes.
For me, if at all possible, I like doing like the trains and stuff. Because honestly, at the end of the day, I'm probably going to be the one that drives if we're driving, and I'd prefer not to have to do that if I don't have to.
Yeah. If we did go to New Zealand, though, we would 100% drive. I hear that that's kind of the thing to do. And explore both the North and South Island that. So
don't you usually rent the car in the North Island and drive south?
I don't know. Malcolm might be able to weigh in on that actually. About what tourists typically do. And if Brian and Stephanie were still here, they could too. But I think they had jumped off. But anyway, so.
But driving in other countries is great. I mean, it's a great way to explore and see things, especially if you're in a place where they might not necessarily have like the big highway infrastructure and like typical road infrastructure that we have. So like in Scotland, for instance, what we always like to talk about is that one of the places we went to in the Isle of Skye, which we would highly recommend for anybody who wants to go to the, do a Highlands tour, stop in the Isle of Skye. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we went to...
Best place in Scotland.
It's gorgeous. One of the things that we went to is the Fairy Glen. And the Fairy Glen you can't get to on like a bus tour. So if you're just doing like a group bus, you're not going to get there because the roads just can't handle that big of a vehicle.
Yeah. It could
So-
barely handle like a small vehicle.
Yeah.
The roads were so narrow, and then people would park along the side of it, which kind of created a
A lot of bottlenecks.
1-lane road on what should have been a 2-lane road. So you do a lot of like 180-degree turns and
10-point turns.
10-point turns.
All the points. As
All-
many points as you need.
But it is worth it. We have some really phenomenal photos from the Fairy Glen just after it rained that because it had been raining, we were one of the few people there. And we ended up
Yeah.
meeting somebody who like was really into drone photography when we were there and connecting with him, and we're still connected with him on social media.
Jesse Gets Lost.
Yeah.
That's his handle. Yeah, that was funny, actually.
Malcolm saying, fly into Auckland and then drive down the country to finish in Christchurch for a drink with me. Yes, we would love to do that. That'd be so fun.
Sorry, so we missed some real quick, though. So Jocelyn and Mark hopped off for a second because they are filming children book readings for our local mom's website.
Oh,
So we'll be back in about 30 minutes.
cool.
Have fun. And Mark is telling me not to drink all the wine while he's gone. Okay.
I told Derek to like drink a little bit less wine, so Mark gives him a little bit less of a hard time. We'll
But
see.
I'm not a quitter.
We'll see.
Gallivanting Gals, what does Derek do for work? So I work in finance, so that's why I'm traveling a lot.
Yeah.
But, coronavirus, so homebound.
Yeah, right now he's working at home.
Yeah.
But he earned executive platinum on American last year, which is like the highest American tier.
Mm-hmm.
And he flew Delta a few times too, so and United a few times.
Yeah.
So he flew a lot in 2019.
Tons. Okay, so Mark Finley, we're getting out of here and go watch a past season of Amazing Race. Have to get our travel fixed somehow. See most of you tomorrow night. Yeah.
Awesome.
See you tomorrow, Mark. Since I'm now a member.
Yes, Derek needs to join the Facebook group though.
I do need to join the Facebook group. So the Walters World Facebook group for anybody who is a Patreon patron or a paying member on YouTube. So it should be fun. Good night, Mark Finley.
I think we've caught up.
So Gallivanting Gals saying the bus service is great in London as well.
Yeah. So I'm just going to add, because people are kind of talking about buses and road trips real quick. That's another thing to talk in advance with people if you're traveling with a group during that. Just a little bit about their road trip habits.
How often do you use the restroom?
I don't think you want to hold anyone to that. But I think what's important is to just understand, like, if they do have some sort of, like, if they need to stop every once in a while just to be able to, in Derek's sake, for example, take photos at a pretty vista, or if they can't drive for, like, longer than 2 hours without kind of getting sleepy, or if they have a motion sickness thing in mountainous areas, that kind of thing. Being able to have that conversation in advance, hopefully people, again, are like self-aware of what they need. And if not, make sure that they feel comfortable to communicate it to you during is going to be important.
Snack needs.
Snack needs. Yeah. And actually planning out, like, if you bring a cooler, ask, like, what do you want to have in the cooler? Or what kind of snacks do you like to have on road trips? Personally, I really like to have things like grapes and really healthy snacks, but some people love to eat, like the Cheetos and jerky and stuff like that too. I mean, jerky's actually not too bad, but
No. Might
You know
make
what
you
I
thirsty
mean.
depending on how salty.
also, Derek, if in this scenario we need to say, oh, well, every single stop I'm going to need a new coffee.
Yeah, I drink a lot of coffee,
He
especially
drinks
if I'm
so
driving.
much coffee
If I'm
when-
driving,
on a
I
road
need
trip.
I need tons of coffee, all the coffee.
Yeah.
But all right, so Darlene is saying that Lexi jumps and climbs on Dad every time he stretches for soccer.
It's really funny.
So, Mom, next time that happens, just go and like record it, video record it,
Send it to BuzzFeed.
send it to us, and we'll upload it for you. Gallivanting Gals is saying that London at sunset is awesome for photography. Yes, London at sunset can be very cool for photography. We found actually that a friend of ours, Graham, we met him in person the last time we were in London.
I did my first interview of the COVID-19 interview series on my YouTube channel with Graham,
yep.
who does a lot of really great UK photography, and on his travels too. But he's based in England, and he was talking about just what the daily life was like in England, and this is back in like 4 weeks ago now. But it was just really fascinating to be able to interview him and hear the differences between what England was like for COVID-19 versus the US.
Yeah, and what I was going to just say is that he gave us some great tips for like photography and for sunset in London. And we went to this really cool place called Butler's Wharf, which is on the south end of the Thames.
Yeah, it's south of the Thames on the east side of Tower Bridge.
Yeah, so you get like Tower Bridge with like the sunset. Everything. It's beautiful. So
so if you're there at sunset, like the sun is setting behind the bridge.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Eric Brown. I'm going to have to get over my fear of driving on the left side next time I'm in the UK. I need to see more than just the City of London.
And Mark and Jocelyn just put out a YouTube video on their channel about driving on the left side of the road. We can't say the wrong side of the road. It's the left.
The other side. Yeah, well, but what Mark is saying is that you get used to it really, and welcome back, Mark, is that you get used to it very quickly. And that's true. You just need to make sure that in that first, half hour, you don't get into a wreck. When we were in Scotland for our road trip of Scotland, the only time that I felt like I almost got into an accident was right at the beginning, coming out of the airport. It was because when we got to the roundabout, I looked the wrong way than what I would typically look on a roundabout, and that almost was disastrous for us. But luckily,
you got honked at.
I got honked at very aggressively, which was the correct thing to do.
Yeah. Thankfully.
Thankfully.
Well, because I think I started yelling at you too. I was like,
what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. This is my first time.
It's my first rodeo.
This is my first rodeo.
But yeah, you get used to it. The only thing that that was challenging, and this was all talked about in Mark and Jocelyn's video actually, was driving with the big stone walls next to you. So we did that on Isle of Skye with semi-trucks coming the other direction that were against the waterfront basically. And then we had the stone wall, and it was pouring rain. So we just turned on Elton John and prayed, and we made it. We sometimes you just got to put on the right playlist to get you through the scary parts.
Yeah. And Gallivant Gals makes a really good point, which is that, the smaller the car, the better when you're in a place like Scotland or any of the more rural locations. And I would say that, Italy's the same way. If you're going to go through the small towns like Piedmont or Tuscany or any of that kind of stuff, with small winding roads that maybe go down to one lane, you don't want a big SUV.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
think about that.
We were in the Piedmont region of Italy, and it went down to in between two buildings. It went the road just went in between two houses basically, and it went down from 2 lanes to 1 lane, and so you just had to stop and make sure the people coming that way went 1, and then you go 1 and 1 and 1. It's
well, even just a
trippy.
regular what would just be a normal road, not even in the city, would go like that, where it'd be 1 lane, and they would just periodically have these little stop-offs where if 2 cars are coming up, you'd see it in advance, you'd pull off into your stop-off, and they'd go past you, and then you'd go back. Or if they were coming to their stop-off, they'd pull off, and you keep going. So it was just one of these things where you need to be aware of that. You have to have like that kind of awareness of what's going on around you,
Yeah.
so that you don't get into like a thing where suddenly you're like nose to nose with somebody and they're like honking at you and you don't know what's going on. Like, just figure, get that stuff
So
in order.
Mark is saying Dubrovnik has a lot of steps with the walls, and getting to the restaurants that aren't insane expensive. Also lots of hills in Lisbon for walking, which can be tough. Yeah. I'm assuming that's kind of around the mobility stuff too. And then he said Jesus took the wheel when we drove through the insane roads in Iceland. That's hysterical.
Take the wheel. Take it from
Good
my
Carrie Underwood
hand.
song reference.
All right, wait. So, but I think we missed a few things. So, Eric Brown, Gal Hunting Gals. I wanted to rent a car last time, but I was nervous, and my sister was with me, and she talked me out of it. Yeah, no, I mean, next time you're there, give it a go. But I would say that London. You don't need it in London. You don't need it in the big cities, really. It's more if you want to go out and explore places outside,
which is so rewarding to be able to do. I think that we wished we had rented a car when we went through the Cotswolds. We ended up taking a bus tour, and it just wasn't our exactly what we would have wanted.
I was actually about to say that.
So I think
we would definitely rent a car next time if we were going to do the Cotswolds.
The trade-off, it might take you a little time, and you might want to give it some practice on some side streets before really jumping on a freeway in the UK. But beyond that, you get used to it, like Derek is saying, and it does. The only thing that gets weird is when you get in on the wrong side of the car. And I mean, I would always do that. I would head to the right side of the car to ride as a passenger.
I'd be like, oh, you're driving.
And then he'd be like, oh, you're driving today? And I'm like, oh, shoot.
And the answer is always no.
Nope.
No, I'm not.
Certainly not doing that.
Which is funny because we always put her on to drive, to be a driver, and she never does.
Well, we talked about this in the last live chat. I'm the navigator always.
Yeah.
Regardless of what side of the car I'm sitting on, so...
But Jocelyn wants you to know that it isn't a Carrie Underwood song reference, and it's that Jesus actually took the wheel because holy moly, it was scary.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
So glad you guys made it through. That sounds terrifying.
So, good tips on photos in London. Okay. One other thing, just pictures in London. So sunset from Butler's Wharf is really cool. I'm sure there's other places, but that was the one that we kind of went to. But for sunrise, actually going to London Bridge and getting photos of Tower Bridge is pretty cool. So that's a good spot for sunrise, if anybody's looking for it.
Yeah.
Alan, which cities have a lot of stairs? Would want to avoid them if knees are bad.
So I think that's what Mark was answering. Sorry about that.
I'm thinking Cinque Terre, maybe others. Cinque Terre I've heard because they don't allow cars and stuff. If you have bad knees, probably not the place to go.
Even Montmartre in Paris has a lot of stairs and is really hilly. So
yeah, I mean, if you're not willing to do don't they have a vernacular there though that you could take up to?
There is something like that, yeah.
Yeah. But if you're gonna walk, you don't want to walk up to that.
But it's also just really hilly, and the metro in Montmartre, if the elevator's broken, for example, which did happen to me once, you have to walk down a lot of flights of stairs just to get to the subway, the metro. Which Montmartre's a wonderful place to stay.
Although you like the Marais district better, right?
I love the Marais district, and I love staying by the. Yeah, more by the Pantheon. I've found some really great local cafes and a creperie there that I love, and it's walking distance to the RERC, which goes to both airports.
I thought you were going to say
for
the
me,
restaurant that we like.
Just being able to jump out of the subway without a transfer and check into a hotel is pretty great. That's my personal preference.
The Pantheon,
you don't that is not everybody's preference, and I'm not recommending that for everyone.
The Pantheon is also very close to a restaurant that we really like in Paris called Le Couchon, which is good. It actually has an English menu, which, yeah, that's probably touristy, but it's very nice, very romantic.
It's also close to that sushi
Old
restaurant
building.
I keep telling you guys all about.
Very nice.
That I embarrassed myself fully at. But I would still go back. I've gone back twice now to that sushi restaurant. I now know to pay in the back. And we make it through. And I eat the yummy sushis.
So Malcolm is letting us know that if you're on a 3-lane road in England, don't travel in the middle lane because that is for overtaking. That's for passing. So that's good to know.
That is good to know.
Katie Smith.
We don't really have 3-lane roads in the U.S. as much. No. So, yeah, that's a good tip.
Yeah, Katie Smith wants to say that that they found that driving in Iceland in spring and summer is okay, but definitely not possible to do the ring road in winter. We were only able to do part of the ring road in winter to see the northern lights. Gallivanting Gals is saying, wow, if you guys are saying that, I should be concerned, but I won't tell Tracy. Nice.
Concerned about which part?
I'm assuming Iceland.
Oh, Iceland.
Yeah, so Mark is saying that Jocelyn said that I could not film.
Did you guys have like AAA? What do you do if something happens? Although I've been in a scenario, since it's hour 2, and I've had a lot of wine, let me just tell you, in Tucson, I went with some friends of mine to a pretty remote place to like go off-roading because one of them had a Jeep Wrangler, and we thought we were being really cool and like filming the Jeep driving through a giant water puddle, and we flooded the engine. The Jeep died. We weren't even on the road. We were off the road, so we had to hike back to the road, and the road was completely, nobody was there. And so we just start walking, and this was probably like right around sunset. And for those of you who've been in the desert in the evening, it's a scary place, especially when you don't have any lights. And so we all of a sudden see this one car coming up out of nowhere, and with headlights. We're like, wave it down, all 4 of us, and it was a cop car, and they had to drive us all the way back down the mountain in a cop car. So
silly kids.
Be careful about any sort of like wilderness trekking if you're not really sure what you're doing.
Yeah,
because you never know what could happen. And this was when I was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
Just so everybody's aware.
Yeah, we were 20 when that happened to you. Okay, so Mark, we went all the way around the country and went on the back road, so kind of set ourselves up for the scary thing. All right. Yes, we knew that, but so Gallivanting Gals letting them know that they had heard about the lack of being able to do the whole circle road in Iceland.
Off-roading abroad, not recommended. Totally true. Especially if you don't speak the language. Okay, sorry. You were backing up.
No, I was just going to say, so...
Ever since making everybody a moderator, it's harder to read
okay,
people's names.
yes.
So sorry about that.
Yeah, you went a little trigger happy. So Katie Smith is saying, yeah, it should be fun. They have very few guardrails in Iceland, and they need more, in her opinion. So that makes sense. So Walter's World is saying that practice lots of squats if heading to Europe to get your thighs ready. And Eliz is right. It sucks when the elevator breaks down at...
Is it a Maltmart
At
station?
metros.
At metros. Yeah, and that sucks no matter what metro you're at, really.
Yeah.
Because then you have to take the stairs. And that could happen where, like, even if it's working going into the subway, when you arrive at a station, it might not be working, so then you have to climb up the stairs. So that's actually more of a surprise to people than, like, if there's a mobility concern. So just being sure that, like, what you're carrying, you're comfortable carrying up at least one flight of stairs is going to be really key for navigating those public transit systems.
Yeah, so Megan Morris is saying that Switzerland was actually really pleasant to drive through. Even in the Alps, they have the best maintained roads ever.
That's great.
I would say I agree. The couple of times I've been in Switzerland. The roads there are fantastic. Like going under the mountains and everything. Like everything is like very nice and easy to traverse.
That's so good that they maintain them well too, because I mean, driving through mountains can be treacherous. So making sure that people are safe.
They just go through
really
the
good.
mountains. It's
True.
pretty cool.
But I mean, I'm sure there's like windy roads here and there as well.
Mark has let us know that Iowa has 3 lanes occasionally.
Oh, I have been to Iowa, but not enough apparently.
Yeah.
Who knew there was so much to see?
And they have a Iceland driving video that is coming out on Saturday.
Cool. We'll have to check it out. That'll be great. Yeah, we probably should make some more some driving videos. We weren't making videos that much back in the day.
Yeah, that was pre-channel, so we weren't really
Yeah.
trying to like capture a lot of the footage for that
Yeah,
stuff.
but that sounds really fun.
Now we're more into the B-roll, so trying to capture it all. Galvant and Gals, Nashville, my hometown. Best barbecue is Peg Leg Porker, one of my best friend's places, and it is awesome.
That sounds like an awesome place. That is a great barbecue name.
Peg Leg Porker. I love it. Now, Galvant and Gals, I would love to hear about what's your favorite hot chicken place? Because I am personally partial to Hattie B's.
That's the only place you really went in Nashville, though.
It's the only place I've been to,
Yeah.
but it's so good.
So we're open to more suggestions.
Prince's is supposed to be pretty good, but it's in a rougher part of town.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make it back to Nashville actually pretty soon. We have some friends there.
Mark is saying you haven't missed much on the Iowa road front. Okay.
Well, my epic road trip that I've planned out, I think the final stop state is Iowa, as because I want to go from Chicago.
She wants to end it on a bang. Iowa.
I want to go from Chicago, probably stop in Lawrenceburg, Indiana to see Derek's family because it's kind of on the way. But then go into West Virginia, through the New River Gorge, then to Asheville, then over into Charleston, South Carolina, then Savannah, Georgia, then Atlanta. This is all like once coronavirus ends, of course. But I've planned this out, and it's gonna happen. And then into Alabama, Mississippi, New Orleans, and then back up kind of through Arkansas, Kansas City, Omaha, and then over through Iowa and back. So it's happening. Also, as Megan Morris and I talked about last night, I'm probably going to make it to the Upper Peninsula soon because, dang it, sounds cool.
Yeah, and I agree with Mark. That is quite the road trip, and we talked about how long this road trip would take us, and it would be a very long time because we like to spend a lot of time in places.
It's like 41 hours just in the car, according to Google. So we'll see. But I have a lot of states that I want to check off my list. Not Iowa or Arkansas.
Anyone else start singing John Denver when Eliz said West Virginia?
West Virginia. Blue Ridge Mountain, Shenandoah River.
Yeah, that. But real quick, Miche is saying that she's heading out.
Oh, thanks for joining,
Because
Miche.
she is distant teaching and need to reach out to some parents for support. See you tomorrow. So see you, Michelle.
Great job. Keep up the good teaching work. We all need you.
Yes. Galvant and Gals. Well, I don't do hot chicken, but Tracy does, and Prince's was the original, but there are a lot of those places now.
So, Galvant and Gal says, I'm assuming this is Melinda. My degree is in finance also. Not sure I really used it except for in my own business. But that is a really important thing to know if you're running a business.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, Michael Mann's here.
Yeah, no. So what I would say is that finance, I use my finance degree quite directly. But yeah, no. I think it's like an important discipline just generally for people. We went to a business school at IU that is kind of, they take a very strong base curriculum approach where even though she is a marketing major. She still had to take a bunch of like accounting and finance classes with me.
Because of the way that the Indiana University Business School curriculum, at least, was laid out 10 years ago. What is it now? 14 years ago now when we started. It's I didn't take a marketing class despite being a marketing major until first semester junior year. So there's that.
Yeah.
I have quite an accounting and finance and stats background for somebody who has a marketing degree.
Well, what's most funny about that is that like they talk about like what's your major, and it's like, well, in the business school, like until your junior year, like your curriculum is basically the same. So
yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're in accounting.
But nobody's required to take a marketing class. You never took one. Well, you took one in I-Corps, but
yeah, I-Corps. Yeah, you
but
take one.
That's first semester junior year.
Yeah. So until your second semester junior year, basically, though, you don't take any of your actual like.
Yeah. They give you the
courses.
Foundations first.
Yeah, you get all the foundation work. So like a marketing major and like a finance major, we've taken the exact same courses up until like the last year and a half of classes. So
yeah.
It's kind of.
And Derek really helped me out. He did. He's a good tutor.
It's how I won her over.
He also like set the curve in macroeconomics.
Okay. Man, you carry a grudge.
I do. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah. So Gallivanting Gal says their daughter goes to IUPUI. Yep. Great schools. So that's IU, Purdue University, Indianapolis, just for everybody.
Yeah. So Mark is saying the UP is nice, but Minnesota is way better, right, Michael Mann?
So I have been to northern Minnesota a lot. I was a volunteer.
And Michael Mann is saying that northern Minnesota is really nice.
Oh, really? Great. I have been to like up by Bemidji area and stuff like that. It's really pretty, very forested, and because mosquitoes love me, I have to be very careful up there.
Yeah, so Malcolm, though, is asking what the UP is, and Mark answered it, that's the Upper Peninsula, but it's the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which Al answered is the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is
so it's the part that's there. Not connected to the rest of Michigan. It's like connected to Wisconsin and
it's
borders.
Like hard to get to.
Yeah, really hard to get to, and borders like Lake Superior and Lake Michigan, and so it's really, because it's so remote. We've kind of been talking about it as a road trip destination on a couple other live chats, because since the times that we live in, going to remote places might actually be sounding really ideal if roads start to open up. We've all been kind of talking about the Upper Peninsula as something to do quicker than maybe we all would have.
Yeah, no, but the Upper Peninsula is just, it's one of those parts of the country that, people really like. It's supposed to be very, like, idyllic and a lot of natural beauty.
Yeah, and, like, lighthouses and cool. I think there's a lot of state forests across the entire UP, so
yeah.
We're excited. National forests even, too, because we're excited. We bought a National Parks Pass in January, and we still need to use it more.
Yeah.
If, when it's possible.
Yeah. Walter's World, Derek, you just broke my heart. No marketing. See, she lied because I did take a marketing class during.
I lied. There was one marketing class.
I took one.
Yeah.
Gallivanting Gals is saying, yes, this is Melinda.
Yeah. So she's the one that had the finance degree.
Mark is letting us know that IUPUI has an awesome pool, and it's the pool where they do like Olympic trials and all that kind of stuff. So, fun fact, actually, one of my fraternity brothers, his dad was actually the Olympic diving coach. So he always would go to the Olympics and stuff. And he knew a ton of Olympian people.
I have an extra fun fact. So I don't know if Rachel is still on. So
How's that extra fun?
No, hold on. If Rachel's still on, she's going to probably kill me for saying this. So I apologize in advance. But one time when she was late high school, she was a swimmer, and I think she volunteered at one of the meets at that pool, and Michael Phelps was there, and Michael Phelps hit on her. This was obviously before he was married.
Good job, Rachel. Rachel, here, what?
Hi, Rachel.
Spreading rumors. Yeah, that's fun. Okay, Eric Brown.
She's like, yeah, that happened.
I'm thinking I may go from Louisiana to Maine or Quebec City if Canada opens the border in the next few months. So, Eric, I would say that Louisiana all the way up to Quebec City would be one heck of a road trip. That would be really cool. And I say that Quebec City is like an awesome place to go to. We've said this before. That's where we got engaged.
Not a rumor. Yes.
I love that. And Mark's like, boom, Rachel is back on.
She's back in the game.
Back in the game. But just to get to what Eric was saying real quick is that Eliz and I got engaged in Quebec City, so it's always going to hold a special place in our heart. It's a beautiful walled city. You can walk along like the ramparts or whatever, and it's one of the only places in North America that has that. So it's very special, very cool. I highly recommend. We did a horseback ride, not a horseback.
Carriage ride, horse and carriage ride.
Horse and carriage ride through the city, and that was a cool way to see it. And it's a little bit kitschy. It's a lot of fun. And along the way, we stopped and we got like a picnic basket, and then we went and we did like a picnic in the Plains of Abraham, which is like a big open parkland right along the St. Lawrence River, which is beautiful and stunning. We had a great time doing that.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend that. And then they have some very, very good dining in Quebec City. They have awesome, like, very French-inspired food because of the French heritage. And we went to a place called Le Saint-Amour, I think, which was like one of these like big tasting menus.
Awesome.
Which was a phenomenal experience. It's one of these like pseudo-celebrity chef type folks, and there's a lot to do and see. They also have a restaurant there for any of the nerds out there called Le Hobbit. Yes, like The Hobbit, but in French. And you go there, and the restaurant it's not kitschy at all. I mean, it looks like a French restaurant. It's very nice. But they do have, like, their cocktails are called, like, the Galadriel, which is, like, one of the characters. So that's a lot of fun.
So there's that.
But no, it's a good place. Awesome. Love Quebec City.
Yes.
So
Quebec City's great.
So real quick, though. Michael
Bye,
Mann.
Katie Smith. Great to have you on, by the way.
Michael Mann.
So
okay, finally done with my evening bike ride, so I can engage a bit more.
nice.
Welcome, Michael Mann.
Well done, by the way.
Yes, we very much love your sticking with the bike rides.
Stationary bikes. Awesome.
It's very cool.
So, back to the UP real quick, because I think there's surprisingly a lot of people interested in potentially exploring up there if road trips become a little bit more common this summer. And I specifically have been looking at Marquette and then a couple of the state and national forests, as well as the shore of Lake Superior up there. I'm really excited to hopefully figure out what the driving situation is, and if we can make it a little bit more rural and like a social distancing trip, and go quicker than, probably not. Obviously, we would go when it's safe, but it's something that we're really actively researching. So if anybody has been there, it sounds like some people have, please let us know if you have kind of do's and don'ts of the UP. And we can hopefully all learn from each other on that one.
Yeah. So Mark is saying that with Illinois going on shelter in place another month, I think we will be doing our summer travels throughout the Midwest now.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. And
I'm also like, the road trip that I mentioned earlier, I mean, it goes to the south, and I am monitoring how things go in those states. So we have a lot of contingency plans A, B, C, D when it comes to road trips.
Yeah. So it looks like Gallivanting Gals is doing something pretty cool. So it says that we're going to do the Upper Peninsula, Chicago, Indiana Dunes for one trip. And then thinking about the OBX, which is the Outer Banks in North Carolina, for wild horses. And then Charleston, Savannah, and back up to Asheville, and finally over to my hometown of Nashville Those sound like two very awesome trips. When you're in Chicago, let us know. Grab a drink. Indiana Dunes, very fun. I will say climbing the dunes can be a bit of a workout, so have fun with that.
That's true, actually.
Like I was huffing and puffing. It was.
You can get to the beach at Indiana Dunes without climbing any hills, right? Like you just park and then you walk there. But then if you want to do any of the hiking trails, there's a dune.
Yeah.
It's steep.
Sand.
Usually you want to run down it and not climb up it.
We have a video somewhere of me running down.
Both of us running down.
Both of us running down a dune, and I definitely almost bit it. Like I just like, it's almost like face plant.
It's fun though. It's like
it's a lot of fun.
You kind of become a kid again.
Yeah. It's like let your arms like dangling. It's a lot of fun. So Mark is telling Eric that if the border is still closed, that they can visit New Hampshire and Vermont, and they are both gorgeous with Maine. So highly recommend it. That's very cool.
I loved Acadia National Park. I went with Rachel and another friend of ours a few years ago. Beautiful, beautiful spot.
So Rachel has been baking brownies this whole time, so that's a lot of fun.
I'm jealous.
So Mark is saying they are thinking about doing Indy, St. Louis, Milwaukee, Minnesota, and the UP. We could all meet in the UP.
I know, that's what I think Galvanting Gals maybe were saying.
Yeah,
we should do a happy hour in the UP. Because I know Megan Morris wanted to go to the UP too. If she couldn't get to California.
They're just going to have a crazy surge in visitors. So Indianapolis, I'm sure you've done that before, Mark, but the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is pretty cool. What else to do in Indy? The canals are kind of cool. They have some great museums, some pretty good like art museums and whatnot. We actually went to a wedding at the art museum that was pretty cool. Yeah. But that's like a really neat building, and they have some cool grounds.
Derek grew up around Indy, so he knows. He's a guru.
Yeah. And then you're saying also St. Louis, which means toasted rav. Gotta eat some toasted raviolis. Milwaukee.
St. Louis, if you guys, I'm sure you'll make videos about it, so that'll be something I follow, because we didn't find too much to do in St. Louis when we went.
Excuse me, St. Louis has the best travel experience of our lives.
What's that? Oh, the yoga under the arch.
Oh my God! So we go. All right. We were in St. Louis for a wedding, which is pretty cool.
Not as memorable for this girl.
Oh my God! It was so awesome. So we go to St. Louis, and the morning of the wedding, we're really close to the arch. We're staying at the Drury Inn, which is, I think it was the Drury.
That sounds right.
Inn, something like that. Which, great hotel chain, highly recommend it. But so we were really close to the arch, so we're like, all right, let's go walk around the arch, do that whole thing. And as we're walking along, there's like this giant yoga class happening like under the arch. And in the very front row of this yoga class, there's two women who are just wearing like, I don't remember what they were wearing. I'm going to say they're wearing like sweatpants, like PJs, sitting on lounge chairs, eating potato chips.
Like not on a yoga mat.
Not on a yoga mat. Just like sitting, like the fold-out chairs that you would have, like that you take on vacation with you to the beach. They were like on those, just like
they had a really good sense of humor.
Just like watching yoga happen in front of them, and I was like, I was dying. I'm like, this is like this is before like YouTube wasn't a big thing back then. I'm like, yeah, there needs to be a way to memorialize this beautiful art.
You just did. This story is going on.
It was artwork. It was beautiful,
on the interwebs
I loved every moment of it. So
here it is. You memorialized it.
I just did.
Okay.
All right.
I think you skipped around a lot, right?
No. Sorry, that was pretty funny. At Rachel, hope you're baking enough for all of us.
Enough brownies, I know.
It's funny.
Mark Walters is saying some of our friends have already canceled their trips for the fall and early winter, which was sad since we were going to go with them. Yeah, that is sad. So sad they aren't going to wait and see, but I can understand.
Yeah.
And you never know, like, if people have, immunoconcerns and just want to wait it out until there's a vaccine. you can't fault people for the decisions they make right now. But it's such a bummer how much the travel industry is getting hit.
So, did you already say goodbye to Katie?
Yeah, I did.
All right. Bye, Katie.
Bye, Kate. Gallivanting Gals. Liz, there's a dune at the Indiana Dunes. Yeah, there's a dune there. I know. Breaking news. Sorry about that. New Zealand. So Megan Morris to Malcolm. New Zealand just promoting domestic travel, or do you think that they are planning to open up for international soon? And then Malcolm says, looking at opening New Zealand, the Australian border, then Singapore. So we have a good friend in Singapore. He lives there.
I have 2 good friends there. Well, I've got one good friend and another guy who's a friend.
Okay, well, we have people that we know there. And they shut down their stuff like a lot later than we did here in the U.S., which is interesting. I was trying to get one of our friends to do an interview on my channel too, but sometimes it just doesn't work out logistically. But the important thing is that it seems like Singapore was really just watching and learning from a lot of other places, and doing a lot from the beginning too to protect their citizens. So that way, I was talking with my friend 4 weeks ago, and gyms were still open there and stuff like that. So it's really interesting just to see how things are different in different places.
Yeah. So Gallivanting Gals loves Maine.
Yeah.
Mark is saying that Acadia is awesome.
Acadia is awesome. And I think I mentioned this on Mark's and Jocelyn's live chat, but if you stay literally right outside of the entrance to the island that Acadia National Park is on, you can save a ton of money, and there's a lot of hotels just along that highway. So staying in Bar Harbor, especially during high season, can get really pricey. And so if you are willing to kind of drive in an extra 30 minutes or whatever each day in order to save a lot, then that can be a good way to do Acadia.
Actually, that's pretty interesting. Michael Mon is saying that they love driving across the UP area on a trip with their kids from Minnesota to Maine and back. That would actually be an interesting way to do the UP.
Yeah.
If you were to start out in
and then into Canada even, maybe. That would be pretty sweet. I was looking at that, actually, if we could do the UP and then, if the borders open with Canada safely, driving around Lake Superior from that direction, going kind of through I think it's called Sault Ste. Marie, and then down into Toronto and up, all the way to Montreal. Yep. We'll see. We'll see what's possible. I've been playing with a lot of scenarios because I'm getting excited about planning.
Shocker. So Gallivanting Gals is saying that they were thinking about doing the covered bridges in Indiana. So Indiana has a ton of covered bridges. It's one of our things, I guess. So there's a big covered bridge festival I know that takes place in southern Indiana at some point, which is pretty cool.
Bye, Michael Mon. Thanks so much for joining. It was awesome to have you. Welcome to our chats, by the way. This was really great.
Yeah. Okay. We have Walter's World. We have friends.
I love this group, by the way, of all of you guys. You guys are just such kindred spirits right now, and everybody's so positive and loves talking about travel just like us. It's really, this type of thing is very rewarding to us, and I want you all to know that.
Plus, I get to drink my wine and not feel like I'm drinking by myself.
But yeah, we love you guys.
So thank you. I'm joking.
I like that your mom is saying what your dad is saying. So Eric says, not Darlene. Indiana Dunes is awesome. Grew up a few miles away. Had cross-country practice there a few times. Because Darlene also grew up a few miles away, but did not have cross-country practice there a few times. So that's the difference.
She was a cheerleader. Okay. Malcolm
What
Hogan.
wine are we drinking? Great question. We I think said it like right when we first started, so most of you guys weren't on then, so we'll do that again.
So we were drinking a wine that we bought at Benny's Beverage Depot here in Chicago, which is like a local liquor store. And it is a wine from Chile, and it is called Cuvée Alexandre, which is a Carmenere. Carmenere, again, being a red wine, is a grape that they found in, I think, the Merlot or the Pinot Noir. I think it's Merlot fields. It's originally a French grape that they thought kind of went extinct in France, and they actually refound it sometime in the last 100 years in
I'm
Chile.
gonna put it up to the thing because we highly recommend this. It's really delicious, and it was what, $15 or something. I mean, it was. $20. Oh yeah, you picked this one out. Derek always picks out the more expensive ones. I'm just like, we don't deserve a $20 bottle. That's crazy.
Hey, you know what? You drink,
but it is really good.
You drink this with a Menage a Trois, which is like $6.99, and they average out.
That's true. But yeah, that grape in general, if you ever see it at the store, is it's pretty good.
It's good. It's very much like it is a Chilean wine.
Yeah.
Like, as though like a Malbec is an Argentinian wine, like Carmenere is a Chilean wine.
All right, so let's go back to road trips because people want to talk
So
about
wait,
that.
Megan Morris, LOL, that's totally the vibe I get from St. Louis, which I think is...
The potato chip yoga class?
Yeah, potato chips and the yoga. Yeah, so much fun.
It was really fun to watch that.
Yeah. So Malcolm's saying we want to go back to Europe next year, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, we'll all kind of have to wait and see about all that stuff. Marcus...
We want to go back to Europe as soon as we
physically can.
Safe.
Yeah, as soon as there's flights, I want to get on a flight to Italy, basically.
Well, we also have like friends in London and stuff that it just feels like we're so distant from them, even though just because we literally can't see them if we wanted to. It sucks.
Yeah. So Mark's saying that Bar Harbor is silly expensive.
It is. And that's why I was saying my savings tips for if you go to Acadia, especially during high season, it can be hundreds of dollars a night for a hotel room, and it's a national park. So what we ended up doing was staying at a really cool, like, old B&B that I think was about 45 minutes away from the island, on the highway that goes into the island. And then we would eat dinner in Bar Harbor every night, lobster, as you would. As one does, because it's Maine. And then go to our cheap, affordable hotel after that.
This was not me. I was not.
It all, like I was saying at the beginning of the chat, it all depends what you prioritize. And for us, it was to have lobster in Maine.
Did you say goodbye to Michael?
Oh, wait, Michael Mann?
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, I said goodbye to Michael Mann. Yeah.
Bye, Michael.
Bye, Michael.
Al, all these chats are so fun for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tracy, it's totally okay if you don't like wine. Sorry that we talk about it so much, but thank you for staying on.
Wait, who doesn't like wine?
Tracy from Gallivanting Gals.
Ah, oh yeah. Sorry.
I think Melinda does though. So. Mark, $20 for a bottle of wine? You're fancy. Well, if it's an everyday bottle, it feels fancy.
No. Our normal bottles of wine are like $7.
Yeah, we have our house wines. That's like Apothic and Menage a Trois, and we get they're $6.99 per bottle at Costco.
Yep, it's awesome. I mean, that's what makes the Costco membership pay for itself, is like the $6.99 bottle of wine that at like Target's like $9. So
yeah.
The more you drink, the more you save.
Ain't that the truth?
That's funny. Eric Brown, these chats are great. I have the NFL draft on mute and listening to this chat.
Yay.
Thanks, Eric. That is like the best compliment
That's
we've
better
ever
than
gotten.
having
That's
us
so
on
good.
mute and then listening to the NFL draft. Thank you.
I'm flattered. Okay, South American wines are my favorite. I am adding that to the list. Megan Morris, totally. Carmenere is really good. And then also, if you like South American wines, there's a great one from Uruguay.
Maybe we'll drink it on the next Thursday live chat because I bought 2 bottles of Tanat wine from Uruguay Tannat, and I really, really fell in love with it when we were there. And I had never found it anywhere in the U.S. until we moved to Chicago and went to Binny's. Binny's,
Yeah.
like I was saying at the beginning of this chat, it's like the kind of place, it's like this big warehouse of wine, and they have it organized by country, and so you're like walking through the world basically when it comes to wine. It's pretty cool.
Yep. So Al is saying, just listen to a podcast from Door County, and they're basically writing off May and June for tourism and are focused on July and beyond.
Interesting, even with June.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Door County is really close to the Upper Peninsula, and as long as we all, stay safe and stay away when we should, like if they're, writing off June, then I guess we should all probably write off June a little bit as well. But I think Mark said earlier, Mark's saying I'm seeing June interstate, so hopefully. I can agree with you there. I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that. At
That's
least
the hope,
like mid-June, at minimum.
Yeah. We'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah.
But that's the hope. Mark is saying that he would love to go back to the European aisle at his local grocery store again.
Yeah.
So typically I'm the one going to the grocery store now. But
Yep.
they still have it. It's still there. The international section's still there. It might be a little bit more picked over, but I actually find that those like international sections are a little bit better stocked. I don't know. I feel like they're not getting picked over as much.
Just skipping. Yes, Mark. Binny's has Uruguayan wine, and specifically, not only did I find Tanat from Uruguay, but we drank a white wine last night.
It was actually very
on
good.
your chat from Uruguay. It was pretty good. I think it was on sale too at Binny's when we went on Monday. So if there's a Binny's down in Champaign-Urbana, hit that up because they have just started carrying Uruguay stuff.
Bonnie, welcome, Bonnie.
Welcome, Bonnie. Cheers to you. Thanks
Cheers.
for joining.
Yay, you guys give great input on Walter's Whiskey and Wine Wednesday. Now I have Thirsty Thursday to look forward
Yes,
to. Cheers.
exactly. And we
Thank
do it
you.
every so just so everyone knows who's on this chat, most of you already know, we also do 2 live streams a week on Thursdays
Yep.
and Sunday mornings. So happy to have you join whenever you can. Or
Yeah.
always.
Yeah. And then Eliz puts out other videos kind of, here and there on travel.
I'm
and
working on a
all
new
this kind of
series
stuff.
right now, but I won't talk about it just yet.
Yeah. So Rachel is saying that the B&B in Acadia was great.
Yeah, it was great. They also do, I think, like weddings and stuff too at that B&B. So they had really cool grounds, and we went on Memorial Day weekend, and they had a pool, but it was like too cold for the pool to be open just yet. So that's something to consider if you're going to Maine. Not that any of us are probably going to go Memorial Day weekend this year,
Yeah.
but it's just that May can be kind of early in the season. You probably want to look at a Maine trip or somewhere that far north, more like end of June through early September.
So
So Megan Morris is saying there's no Binny's in Kentucky, but they have Total Wine, and we've had great luck at Total Wine too. And Total Wine's like a
definitely
more.
Southwest and South.
I think we went to one in Las Vegas in January, didn't we?
Yeah, that'd be Southwest.
Yeah. Yeah, so
They have them down in, like,
they definitely have
Arizona
them
and
all
all
over
over
the
the place.
country. But it's a very similar experience at Total Wine as Binny's.
Yeah, no, so Malcolm is saying dark beers are kind of his thing, the darker the better. That's how my uncle is. He loves dark beers, like the thicker it is, the dark, like the more like of a milkshake stout, that kind of thing.
Is that like
his
Guinness?
favorite. Yeah, like
Dark
Guinness
beer?
would be a stout. Yeah, that would be a dark beer. I'm not as big of a dark beer fan. I really enjoy Belgian beer. I think Belgian beer is among my favorites.
He loves it.
So good. But if I'm in the UK, a Guinness is pretty good.
Do you mean Ireland?
The British Isles. If I'm in
Yeah.
the British Isles, I will have. I've never been to Ireland.
What do you usually say? You want a cask ale?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I'm in England, I really want like an English ale, like a like room temperature, like they have to like pull from like the cask. Like that's what I want.
Which surprisingly, he had a hard time finding in London.
I was so upset.
And we talked to our friend Graham about that, and apparently in London, a lot of the pubs are owned by kind of like the same company all over town. What was it? I don't want to misspeak. But like there's basically two companies that own most of the pubs in London, and so they serve a lot of the same alcohol. So if there's something that's not there, you're not going to be able to find it in a lot of places too.
Yeah, but a lot of those pubs will have what I'm looking for typically. But you know, it's like we would
Good night,
go to like.
Darlene and Eric. Thanks for joining.
Night, Mom, Dad. When we would go to like, you know, like the Sky Garden, for instance. Like the Sky Garden in London is super touristy. Very nice though, but the bar up there.
Definitely go. Again,
Very
free.
much go.
Just get your tickets in advance.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Worth going, great views, all that kind of stuff, as long as the weather's nice. But you get up there and you get to the bar, and I'm like, all right, yes, it's my first bar in London. Like on this trip, I'm gonna have like my cask ale. It's gonna be awesome. Cause like, come on, this is like touristy London. Like, of course they're gonna have it. No, they didn't. The only beers they had two beers. They had Heineken and they had Peroni. What? Like a Dutch beer and an Italian beer. That's all they had. I was so upset. Which I like Peroni. Peroni's very good.
Malcolm. Bruges, Belgium. Derek totally geeked out on all the beers when we went there. And there was so many to choose from. And what I liked about in the cafes and stuff in Bruges is they would have the chalkboard menu outside of the food menu, and then literally a chalkboard menu of like all of their beers on tap. It was just something that you wouldn't really see at a lot of other places, but because it's such a beer mecca, it was really cool.
So Bonnie is saying that she was supposed to go and visit the Taj Mahal today, but instead did a virtual tour, and there's a lot less people that way.
Yes.
So
Still
Bonnie,
a little bit sad.
I'm so happy that you at least did the virtual tour.
Yeah.
I'm very sad that
cool
you had
that
to
they
miss
have
your
it.
trip, though. Hopefully you're rescheduling that for another time.
Yeah. Some surprisingly interesting wine in the Republic of Georgia. Have you been there and tried their wine? We actually have not been to the Republic of Georgia, and I have not tried their wine, but I've heard a lot about it.
We really want to go. They've gotten
kind
a
of
lot
in the travel universe.
Yeah.
And but I have had wine from Lebanon, and it was very good. It's my friend that's half Lebanese kind of gave me wine and was like, "You gotta try this. You gotta try this." So I can imagine it's probably similar, but maybe not. I certainly would love to go there and try. I've heard some great things about Georgia generally. Like they really love
Georgia is
visitors.
supposed to be beautiful, and you know everything that I've heard about it from like other like travel enthusiasts and stuff is that it's amazing. So. Yeah. All right, so
bye, Mark and
Jocelyn.
Thank you guys again
Have
for
a good
joining.
One. Thank you so much.
Yep, say hi to Caleb and Liam.
we'll talk to you guys tomorrow on the members chat. So.
Yes, definitely. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow night. And sorry that you haven't found Tanat by you, but I think if you search hard enough, maybe you'll be able to get some.
You can at least get it delivered. Yeah. Megan Morris, everyone loves Heineken, but it's so much better in Europe. The American formula is different.
That's the same with Strongbow cider out of the UK, where the Strongbow recipe in the UK is less sweet than in America. They changed it because of the American tastes when they had Strongbow enter the US market. So crazy stuff out there in the beer and cider universe. It's fun to try the different ones in different places when you travel. Malcolm's saying he doesn't like Heineken. Do you like Heineken? We were trying to go to the Heineken distiller. What is it called? The Heineken Experience in Amsterdam.
Well, no, I wanted to go and you shut it down.
Well, we were thinking about trying to go in Amsterdam. But we ended up only being able to be in Amsterdam for 3.5 days before having to fly home prematurely in March. So and we flew home because, of course, we wanted to be safe and get home for the travel ban.
Yeah. No, So Heineken's one of those beers that like I'll drink it if I have to, but I don't seek it out. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, Heineken's the best, or like Stella. A lot of people like Stella, but like, yeah, I'll take or leave either one of them personally. If I'm flying, I'll usually drink Heineken because that's a lot of times a beer that they'll have on their flights, whether that's Delta or American.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
no, I mean, I don't seek Heineken out. I'd much rather have like a Dos Equis, like
He's been drinking Modelo
Negro
prematurely
Modelo.
because he like bought it for Cinco de Mayo, and we're like, it's not Cinco de Mayo yet.
I had one last night. It was delicious. It tasted like Cinco de Mayo. And it's a darker beer, so Malcolm, there you go.
Megan,
I like
sounds
all
like you
sorts.
and I have similar tastes in ciders. I like it a little bit. Like I don't like it too sweet at all. If it's too sweet, it just doesn't. It's not my jam. So, I like the drier ones as a good option. Balmer's is great. He says, or Galventi Gal says Balmer's, but there's one in Australia that we had that was good, and I can't remember the name. But yeah, Balmer's and Magners. So Magners is basically supposed to be Bulmers, but in the U.S., and it's a similar story to the Strongbow U.S. UK thing, and they have a very similar label, and it's the same company, but they just sweetened it a little bit with the Magners brand in the U.S.
So Malcolm is saying that if you drink enough Stella in one go, it turns your pee bright green.
Cool.
I've never heard that, but challenge accepted. Like how much? Like what are we doing?
I don't even want to know why.
But
That's crazy talk.
That's funny. So we've caught up and we're past the 2-hour mark now.
Yeah.
So if there's any other big questions, we'll take them. Otherwise, we will lots. Keg stand. You got to do a keg stand of Stella, and then your pea's green. If there's any other big questions, we'll take them now. Otherwise, we'll probably let you guys go because it's getting a little bit late.
Yeah, it's been great catching up with everybody and talking to you all. What I love about these chats is that everybody feels just so like kindred spirits. And we really, really look forward to these every week.
Yeah.
Again, we have these twice a week. Hopefully all you guys can come back and join us as much as possible during quarantine. And just let us know if there's any questions that you have for us for future ones. We're happy to answer them.
Yeah, and as these keep going, like you'll see my hair keeps getting longer and longer as I can't get my hair cut. So
let me just say to Megan Morris real quick. I can drink the Angry Orchard, the crisp one, like the blue label. I think that one's not too bad, but most of the other ones are pretty sweet. The ones that really get me are the woodchuck ciders. Those are so sweet. But I think that they're decreasing in popularity now that more cider brands are out there. Is Red's the one that's kind of like a beer cider? Or is that...
it's usually, I think that's an apple ale.
Okay, yeah. Whatever the apple ale ones are not usually my go-to as much. I just kind of drink them if I have to.
Rachel has a question for you.
Rachel has a question. Where did you get your headband? So this is actually a scarf that I tied around my head that I got in Italy.
I told her she was looking very vintage.
Let's see. It's kind of moved a little bit throughout this chat. Here we go.
She got it at
I got it in
Lake Como.
Bellagio in Lake Como, and I created a headband out of it tonight. Just feeling the travel vibes.
Clearly, I was not.
But yes, if anybody has any fun questions, we're happy to answer them, even if it's about my headband. Thank you, Rachel. Though.
Eric is saying that he tried to book the Sky Garden, but he was too late and unfortunately wasn't able to get to it.
Yeah.
But hey, hopefully next time you go back.
I think it opens like 5 weeks in advance or something like that you can get the tickets, and then it's good to have flexibility because a lot of those prime spots will book up like after work or on weekends will really book up. So if you can go like on a Monday at 11 a.m., that's usually the more ideal. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good spot. Yeah. everybody, thank you all for joining. Hopefully see you Sunday, and if not, see you next Thursday too. And definitely really fun to talk to everybody tonight. We live for these things, and you guys are such a great group. So thanks again, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your night. And we're so pleased to have you all join.
See you guys next time.
Bye.